Yo, machine.
Hey, man, I'm sorry I'm a little bit late, but I had a little mishap with the mini machine and bath time. It's always a big issue.
Oh no! Look, man, it's all cool, man. We know that father time comes first, man. Father time and family time must always come first, man.
Father time first, and then second vino. This is
and this is Ribena, so cheers.
Oh, nice. Cheers to that, man. Cheers.
Yeah, right. So,
are there a lot of folks joining us in the chat or no?
No. I think no. I think a few guys are just rolling in. A few of the regulars are just rolling in now. So let me just say this: people are going to be disappointed. They're going to be angry, and they may call us names because there are a lot of heavy hitters that didn't make this top 10 list, and it's so funny. Like even some of the names I see being mentioned in this grouping, some of them did not even really make this list. But you know what?
No. Can I add to that? And I think we're in the same boat. Some of the big names that everybody's thinking of right now, and it's rattling around in their brains, didn't even make the outside the top 10 cut. Because you asked me to come up with some of the ones that were a close call and almost made it into the list, and I came up with those. But a lot of the ones that people are thinking it's the obvious choice for number one or number two or whatever, they didn't even make that list, the list outside of the top 10. So.
Oh, no. Yeah, I mean, so should we go with our special mentions first before we go to our top 10?
Yeah. It's a matter of your dramatic sense, man. I think we should do it first. Let's just get it over. Yeah. You start with yours, and let me just check my list because it's here on my phone.
Okay. So these are my special mentions that didn't make the list. So, Narcos Mexico, Sons of Anarchy, Homicide: Life on the Street, The Sopranos, and Rome. Those are my special mentions.
That's funny. It's funny. We have one in common. That's it, and that's Rome. The one you said. I was looking at my phone, and it's not on my phone. It's on my computer, on my desktop. So I'm gonna say my list, and my first entry is going to probably trigger a lot of people, but it's Friends, which I think is a very solid sitcom and excellent for what it is. Family Ties, which was this show in the 90s that was a tearjerker and very well put together. I don't know if you watched that. Oh no, Family Ties.
No, I did. I mean, not much, but I did.
I've got it confused. Sorry, this is the Michael J. Fox sitcom, which was sort of launched Michael J. Fox's career and put him into the big time conversation.
Because while he was filming Back to the Future, he was doing Family Ties. So I think
dude, it's like he was
doing them at the same time.
He played this really interesting character, which was this ultra conservative kid. He was sort of like the Archie Bunker for the new generation. If you know who Archie Bunker is on the Family.
Yeah.
And it's funny that he was put against people that were liberally minded, and he was sort of a know-it-all character, but really charismatic. And Michael J. Fox just exuded. You knew that he was going to become a star, man, regardless. And it's a shame that his career was cut short because of his condition. But that's life, unfortunately. All right, so Family Ties, Party of Five, which that's the tearjerker that I was talking about, and Poirot, which was this really interesting, really well-crafted detective show. And for me, the greatest detective show of all time, called The Case Book of Sherlock Holmes, which was a 90s TV show, I think produced by the BBC or ITV or what have you. And the actor that played Sherlock is the definitive actor for me. Google him and Google the show.
one that I forgot to mention was A Different World. A Different World, which was again like a show that was, I think it was developed by Debbie Allen, who is kind of this kind of like musical choreography kind of creator, which was very good as putting out the youthful African American voice back in the early 90s and so forth, and everything. So yeah, that's another good one. So look, man, as I said again, some people, this was do you know what was hard? Coming up with the list wasn't hard.
It was the order.
Grouping was very, very difficult.
It was the and I'm still not completely sure on it. I think, dude, with insurmountable tasks such as these ones, which we've been doing recently, I think people won't fault us for not getting the order absolutely right. It's the top 10. You can rearrange them. These are all absolutely fantastic entries. And sometimes I wake up thinking that this show may be above that other show, and on a Wednesday I might rearrange that. So it's also like according to mood and whatever you were feeling in the day.
Okay.
And that's what I felt today.
So I just say, Mister, I'm gonna have to point out something. There are people who haven't actually seen Money Heist. So I think it is extremely stupid of you to come in and start to post potential spoilers of a TV show that people haven't seen. So I've had to put you in timeout. But please,
I don't even know what that is, man. What is that?
Oh, no. I mean, basically, it's this show. I think it's a Spanish show on Netflix, and everyone has said like, it's an amazing show.
Cool. Apparently, a cool show, and it's cool that it takes place in Portugal. Apparently, like that's big up to that. You can fault us. Me as a Portuguese, I can fault the Spaniards about a lot of things, but I can't but not give them praise for some of the TV and some of the movies that they come out with, which they're very good. Their cinema is really on a whole different level to Portugal, I would say.
Why you mean Spain?
Spain, yes, yeah. I mean, Portugal cinematically is beneath dirt, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to change that up a little bit because I'm in the movie industry. So, root for your old pal Machine, please.
No. We always will, man, for sure. Okay, so should we get to it, man? Yeah, so now I'll let Mr. Machine go first. So give me your number 10.
Okay. So my number 10 is Arrested Development.
Okay.
Did that feature? Does it feature in your list, or do you not want to spoil it?
It's not on my list.
It's not on your list. Why not? Because you didn't watch it?
Kept hearing about it, never fully watched it.
Immediately, you see, there's certain like shows and movies, and that we have these conversations, and instead of you wasting your time on whatever's like coming out on Netflix, like Tiger King or whatever, go to the classics, man. If you have like a sliver of time of your day to like spend on something, spend on these classics that you haven't seen. I'll do the same.
Is this the one with Jason Bateman?
It's with Jason Bateman, yeah. It sort of launched Jason Bateman's career. But Jason Bateman is sort of the middleman. He's the neutral guy that everybody can relate to. And he's stuck in these very...
Wait. So is this a show where everything is improvised?
There's a lot of improvisation. That's why it's so good,
Okay.
There's a lot of improvisation. Written by, I may be mistaken, but a lot of the Simpsons people.
Oh, okay. Matt's groaning on all those guys.
No, not necessarily him, but like Simpsons writers. Back when the Simpsons was actually like top notch. Which, by the way, if I didn't include the Simpsons in this list because it's an animated show, and I already included
same thing with Boondocks as well.
Yeah. And I was thinking, should I put Futurama in here? But then no, because it's animated.
It's animated.
Yeah. But Arrested Development, the thing about Arrested Development, all the characters are very well drawn and very memorable. There's a lot of fantastic performances from the cast. One guy in particular that steals the show but I'm forgetting his name, man. Can you imagine? He's the guy that played Batman in the Lego.
Jeff Amell, something Amell.
Uh,
Stephen Amell. Stephen Amell.
is it Stephen Amell?
I think it's Stephen Amell. Okay. It's something Amell.
Arrested Development. I hate not to, dude. I should put like 3 hours of work into these things before we actually do them. But
no, I'm pretty sure
I spend more time on the actual list than anything else. But Arrested Development cast. Let's see it.
It should. I'm pretty sure it's Stephen
Jason Bateman. Michael Cera is another guy that was launched. His career was launched by this show. Michael Cera, who's
I remember. I watched the first episode, and then I was like, okay, I think I need to sort of like dedicate some time to really do this fully.
Okay, Will Arnett. Will Arnett is his
Sorry, Will Arnett. Will Arnett.
He's got this very particular voice, and he's got this very unique delivery. You know, sort of out of his time, more like a '50s sort of hard edge sort of dude, but the way he says it is really comedic. The way he delivers his lines, you know, it's almost like you remember the Batman from the '60s? Whoever played him, I'm blanking out on as well.
I always forget.
It's like an enhanced version of that, you know. That's why it was perfect casting for Batman, the Lego Batman.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of which, I've not actually seen that yet, though. I mean, the trailer was funny.
So funny, man. And they made a spin-off movie out of it. And,
wait, spin-off of Arrested Development?
I think so. They did 2 seasons, right? And the 2 seasons were very, they did all right in terms of ratings, but they grew and grew in people's estimation, and they sort of became a cult hit. And the clamor for a new season just kept growing. And eventually, from what I understood, they made like an offshoot movie.
Oh,
they didn't go like full out and like sign on for another season. They did like a movie.
He was in Superbad, wasn't he, Michael Cera?
Michael Cera,
yeah.
He's sort of like the guy that played Luthor in the god awful Superman versus Batman film.
Oh, that dude, yeah.
You remember him?
Yeah.
He's Michael Cera, sort of like they're sort of cut from the same.
Yeah. They're
the nerdy, like gangly sort of dudes, you know. But I
with the same kind of mannerism and the same kind of voice.
But the other guy's more like of an erotic Jew type, like what do you call it, Woody Allen, and Michael Cera.
Eisenberg.
I think, Eisenberg, exactly. I think Michael Cera is more charismatic and more fun to watch. You know, he was in that movie that's actually pretty interesting. Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Yeah. No, but I think that's like his biggest one. All right, man. Look, man. Let me roll with my number 10, man. So, Machine number 10 was Arrested Development, which obviously I need to give it a swatch to. So my number 10 is Oz. Now, is Oz on your list?
No, it's not. No.
So basically, Oz is pretty much about prison. It stars Harold Perrineau Jr. For those who've seen Lost or those who watch Matrix Reloaded will recognize him. And he pretty much is the narrator of what life is like inside this is prison. And this is easily the most hardcore, effed up, messed up, searing, authentic take on what life inside a prison will be like.
Dude, more than Shawshank, more than
yes,
more than Alcatraz.
This makes Shawshank
Escape
look like a holiday resort. It makes Shawshank look like a holiday resort.
But all right. But does it go over the line, and do they make it unseemly? Do they make it unbelievable? Is it? Do they enter like territory that's just not believable?
No. I mean, no. It's like I think in the later seasons, hence why it doesn't go. It's not higher on up in my list, because in the later seasons it does go off the rails a bit, and I think they try and make it so much of a TV show. But the first 2-3 seasons, it just feels like, okay, no, this is just how messed up some of these guys are, and probably the kinds of things that would happen if you had literally the most messed up, sick-minded individuals all locked up in this prison, and literally, like, there are no heroes here. It's just characters. Like, the wardens are messed up, the guards are messed up, all the prisoners are messed up, and basically, you just have this guy who basically narrates the lives of all of these dudes. Because what's interesting is you learn about the crimes that these people did to get them in there, and in different episodes, it's like a little peek inside how each of these prisoners survive. Some of them are like seasoned prisoners. Some of them are like white supremacists. Other guys are guys who, maybe the crime was a mistake, but they got them.
There's little cliques. There's little cliques inside the prison.
Oh no, there are, but they don't do it in the same kind of stereotypical way as you see in other ones. I think rather than focusing on the cliques, they focus more so on the individuals and the lives of the individuals. And it's but also it's done in a very kind of artistic kind of way, because when you look at the guy who is narrating it, he sort of gives it a kind of storyline kind of feel. So it's dances that whole thing between being realistic and being artistic. So but literally, this is what I always say, because this is what my brother even told me. If you want to make sure that you don't want to ever go to prison, watch this show. After you watch this show, you will be the most obedient member of society in the world. Trust me. Like, you know what? I am going to be a complete Pharisee.
You'll start filling taxes for no reason, even though you
1,000%. 1,000. You'll start paying the government money if you don't owe them.
Yeah.
All right. So
it's funny that you mentioned that, because all of a sudden I started thinking about shows that are prison related, and what sprung up was
Prison Break.
Not Prison Break, because I thought that was not that good. It was good. It was just not stellar. But this show that's like sort of like a reality show called Lockup, and that's a very engaging show. But that's a reality show, so I didn't include anything that was even. Well, I did include one that's semi-real. But we should have like maybe spoken about like do reality shows get into the mix, or are they out? Is this just a fiction-based sort of deal? Because I did include one that's semi-real.
Okay. No. We'll see. I mean, because for me, that's why. Because even when this whole thing was TV show, I was like, okay, boom. I said, wait a minute. Sitcoms are allowed as well. So it's for me. Friends isn't even on my radar, but Friends
is it in your top 800?
No.
So it's your Titanic, basically.
Titanic
is to movies is what Friends is to TV shows.
Yeah, no. For me, I just don't get Friends. Like, I mean, like my sister loves it. My sister,
dude, I was the same as you, but then I don't know what happened. I think somebody had like a box set of the first season. I was living in London back when DVDs were the thing.
Yeah.
And they had like a box set of the first season. I was like, oh, let's pop it in and see what happens. And I watched the first episode. Wait a second. It didn't annoy me enough that I was like, because everybody said like Friends was the stupidest thing of all time, right? And I kept waiting to be as annoyed as everybody else was. And not only did that not happen, it endeared me more and more of the show. And by the second season, I was totally hooked. And I started buying the box sets myself. And yeah, it's not as bad as people say it is.
No.
It's actually like a great show, I would say.
No. It's like, I think my brother explained it to me. Is like, I appreciate how good the writing is.
The writing's very, very snappy and very.
It's like because my brother said, do you know how good the writing has to be? Where this is a TV show that takes place in about 2 or 3 locations. It's really the cafe and both of their apartments, and that's the props of it.
A show doesn't get that big, like that ginormous.
No.
Without it having some semblance of quality to it.
So for me, it's just that I just don't get it, and I think because it's a comedy show, and if you don't get comedy, it's very hard.
It's a romantic, but it's like a soap opera. It's like the thing that drew me in was the subplot, the romantic subplot between Rachel and Ross. And I became like my estrogen levels went up the roof when I was watching it, but I got sucked in and drawn in, man. And I was like, man, I want these two to get together, when you root for a couple. and they're sort of like an not an unpredictable, but an unlikely couple.
Oh yeah.
That's when that's what the basis of what all rom-coms are built on, basically.
Oh,
But this very effectively drew it out season upon season upon season, and and got less, and got, for me, my estimation, got less sort of formulaic than a lot of shows that are steamed way above it critically. I'll give you an example. Seinfeld, which everybody puts their lid over, it's the same thing over and over again. It's the same basic premise. You know what I mean? It's these people that are basically antisocial, every single one of them. And but I'm not saying that it's a bad show, but they're on equal footing to me. I wouldn't say Seinfeld is way above Friends or Friends is way above Seinfeld. They're sort of like on equal footing. But it's much cooler to say, oh, Seinfeld is leagues above Friends. I don't think that's the case.
So basically, look, I'm not a fan of either, so
Seinfeld as well. Okay, all right, yeah.
Number 9, man. So hit me with your number 9, bro.
Number 9. I have to look at it. Sorry, man. It's the A-Team. One of the best intros of all time. One of the coolest tracks for sure. Amazing characters. Probably something that should be made into a movie, but it'll never be the same because there's at least one character that's impossible to reproduce, called Mr. T. Mr. T.
Oh, yeah.
It's very tough to get the new Mr. T.
It's important, like because he's
I thought The Rock, but The Rock.
No, he's not. No, Mr. T is a 1-in-1.
Yeah, it's like a once in a lifetime sort of thing.
Yeah, like he's like because I remember like that's when they made the film. They got this UFC dude, Rampage Jackson, and it was like, no, this guy just is completely not what Mr. T was about.
It's like trying to do blood sport without JCVD, man. You just
Like the particular guys who are 1-in-1 and they can't be replicated. Like there's no point in even trying to replicate them because it's like Mr. It's like. See, for me, I liken Mr. T to like an Arnold Schwarzenegger. Those guys are.
He could have been, and he should have. If he had like a little bit more luck in his choices of movies, he could have been a Schwarzenegger. Do you know what I mean? Because Schwarzenegger isn't exactly he doesn't have a lot of elasticity in his.
No. I mean, but just Annie has that kind of presence, though. It's like.
Because
Annie is not like anything
one in a million, but I would say that Mr. T is like one in almost a million.
Yeah, for sure.
And he could have, but it's sort of, I guess his stick gets a little tiring because it's more forceful than Arnie's. You know what I mean? Arnie's stick has more.
There's more range.
Has more range. He allows himself more range. Mr. T's always like, I pity the fool. It's like
yeah.
If he's trying to bring that on to like other roles,
because I think the thing is that Arnie is actually really funny in real life. Like he's got a lot of charisma, so he's like a funny guy. So he just isn't the kind of stoic kind of
he's funny, and he's also like got like one of those massive personalities that like. I'm just thinking of his career now, man. I think he's like 60 or something, 60 something. He's been in 5 or 6 movies since his return from politics back into Hollywood. They've all tanked. But he keeps getting major movie roles because he's Arnold.
I think
like hey, listen, you puny man, give me like this role immediately.
But I think he knows that his time is done, though. He knows like his time is done with regards to film. So he's just pretty much just doing the whole regular life, just like basically just, hey, look, man, I'm just the guy that's used to be in those movies. But back to A-Team, though, it's like, A-Team was really big, though. That was really
big. It was a very cool premise. It had 2 or 3 amazing personalities.
Great characters.
Great characters. Mr. T, which was the first and foremost. And then, of course, you had Faceman.
Wait. Also, for those guys who want to give me crap about choosing Seven Samurai as my greatest film, no Seven Samurai, no A-Team, because the A-Team followed the whole ideology of a crew and a crew with different personalities, different characters working together. So I think that was probably one of the key things of the A-Team.
All right, that's cool, but you can't tell me that the first guy to think of a crew was Seven Samurai, man. Even like those freaking movies with Brad Pitt or whatever. They're remakes of movies that probably preceded Seven Samurai. Ocean's 11, the original Ocean's 11.
Do you know Seven Samurai was made like I think in the 30s or the 40s?
30s? No, you're crazy. Sorry.
Or maybe the Seven Samurai is old, bro.
1954. Okay. So you're telling me that there hasn't been like an ensemble movie before Seven Samurai?
Nope. That's why it's like it was the first of its kind. Like Magnificent Seven, Ocean's 11 all came after Seven Samurai. Seven Samurai is the first of its kind. Like it's originated that idea. So basically, maybe a film did it before, but nobody populated it or did it as well as Kurosawa with that film. And then once he did it that well, people are like, oh my god, man, boom, copy. So an A-Team is like a far descendants cousin or thingy of Seven Samurai. But yeah, A-Team, its strength was the characters. The characters were so well drawn and were so interesting. So
yeah, and the characters. One of them was actually, I'm trying to find out what the name of the guy was.
Who?
It was the general, Matt Murdock.
Or Murdock, yeah.
Was it Murdock? Captain played by Dwight Schultz. Was that him? No, that's not it. Sorry. That was an interesting character as well. But
was that kind of like?
All right, I got it. Hannibal Smith, played by George Peppard, and he was a big deal, in the 60s. He was almost like a sort of Gregory Peck sort of dude, like an A-lister, like a proper A-lister. He was in Breakfast with Tiffany's or for Tiffany's or whatever with the great what's the name of the girl, man? Audrey Hepburn.
Oh, yeah.
Breakfast with Tiffany's. He's the love interest of Audrey Hepburn. But his deal was he was such a raging alcoholic that he became impossible to work with. And Hollywood sort of nixed him and gave him the blacklist. And A-Team was his coming back to the forefront. It was like his second chance. And I think he did a proper job. Every single one of those characters are very interesting, and they're very strong personalities. And that's the appeal of the show, is that they're constantly at war with each other, even though they're in the same team, So
no, for me, no. That's a great pick.
Dynamic is something that's very interesting to me.
Okay, so number 9 for thingy is A-Team. So let me roll with my number 9, man. So this is where it got tough, but I said, you know what, this is a classic, and I think most people have seen this, and most people might be shocked that it is maybe this slow, maybe they won't be that shocked. So my number 9 is Star Trek: The Next Generation. Because remember, so preceding Star Trek's Next Generation was of course the Star Trek series with Shatner and Spock and everything. So there was huge amounts of pressure for these guys to pretty much reboot this based off the extremely popular Star Trek show. So not only did they reboot it successfully, but it's how they did it. They didn't copy what the Shatner series did. They went in a completely different direction, different dynamic, different crew, different chemistry. And I think that and to this day, people still put this as the greatest of the Star Trek shows, because again, obviously we have the Hats Boys. So basically, because look, there've been about 5, 6, 7, 8 Star Trek shows. The recent ones are complete gutter garbage, but people still say this is the best crew. These are the best people that come together, and this is the best, and this is just the best chemistry of guys, And again, look, Patrick Stewart, this is what he was known for, beyond whether he was flipping Professor X in the X-Men films, he is known for his role of Picard, which people say is probably one of the best captains, one of the best roles on TV. And some of the episodes of Next Generation are just incredible. And it's really just gave you sci-fi to a whole new level.
I'm going to have to agree with you because Star Trek is one of my absolutely favorite shows. Because what I do is like I put it on, and I put headphones on, and immediately I go to sleep.
Oh wow!
It's sort of like a lot of people use white noise and other things. I use Star Trek, and I just listen to people like drone on about we need we don't have enough power, Captain, and shit. And I just go.
It's about the battle of morality. It's deep. It's the battle of the minds, man.
Yeah, I know. I know that it's very like philosophical, and people like to wax lyrical about the conversations that they have in the bridge and stuff of the SS Enterprise or USS Enterprise. But for me, I know it's cool to shit on J.J. Abrams, but he made Star Trek interesting for the first time.
No way. See, that's where we have to have beef. That's where we have beef. Okay. Those films are awful. They are atrocious. They're horrible. Absolutely, totally horrible. Like Abrams and Star Trek they don't belong together. It is a horrible fit, and it's completely awful, completely and totally awful, man.
Like it was kinetic. It was, finally like he established like the basic character dynamics between Kirk and Spock, right? Where Spock is the ultra logical, bereft of emotion alien, and Kirk is sort of like he's an impulsive sort of guy, but with his heart in the right place. He's all heart. He's all heart, right? Kirk is all heart. And Spock is all brain and no heart. And they complement each other well, right? And he got those basics. That's the only thing you need for Star Trek. That's the sort of like the basic, that's the heart and soul of it. And and Abrams made it interesting to watch for me for the first time.
No.
People sitting around a hangar.
He made it very crass.
A hangar talking about the morality of like the Klingons or whatever. Isn't appealing to me. And those things only existed because they were like cheats. They didn't have the budget to actually go to the planet, so they had to like do it through exposition. So, I was never a fan of Star Trek. I know people are going to hate me for this, but
they better do. They better hate you, man.
They already are in the chat.
No. You're wild, bro. You're wild. All right. So give me your what's your number 8, bro? Let's move on before I get pissed off.
Kick me out. All right. Number 8 is you don't know what this is? Can the chat guess?
I mean, the song sounds familiar.
It's MacGyver, man.
I never watched it.
Right. Now I'm pissed off. Sorry. Now I'm pissed off. Now MacGyver's like, dude, MacGyver. Let me get rid of the hat. Now this is serious talk. MacGyver was a seminal show. Everybody knows that. Not just because of the dude's mullet, but also because it was a very ingeniously crafted concept. And one of the things to me as a writer, because I dabble in writing, that is the most difficult, is to tackle mysteries and a show like MacGyver. A formulaic show like MacGyver where you have to come up with a scenario where the character is in dire straits and he has to come out of that impossible situation just based on his ingenuity. You know what I mean? His intelligence and his craftiness. And they did it every single time, man. They did it. Sometimes they played fast and loose with the rules and with.
Okay, so is this pretty much like Magnum PI?
No, it was like this guy that was like a super smart guy with. He was a very crafty guy with inventing things and stuff, and he could take, for example, this cup of espresso and a hat and create like a C4 bomb out of it. You know what I mean? But they use real science, apparently. They use real science. The writers did every episode, and that was the appeal of it.
No.
What is MacGyver going to come up with next to come out of this situation? And he could just if an airplane was going down in free fall, he could just use the Swiss Army knife and somehow get out of the situation. You know what I mean? Use the ultimate escape artist.
No, like I said, look, I never watched MacGyver. I'm sorry, man. I never did. I apologize, man. I never. Oh yeah, those thumbs downs are for you, but for your Star Trek take, I'm sure those are for you. For your
Dr. Bell. Yeah, well, let's meet up mano a mano.
No. But have you watched Magnum PI?
I have not. No,
because whenever I looked at clips of MacGyver, it gave me a lot of Magnum PI vibes.
Yeah, but Magnum PI succeeded MacGyver. MacGyver is like the OG, I think.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because it just seemed like this was the central. So yeah, maybe Magnum PI sort of copied.
Things. I don't know anything about it, but it's something you should just give it like 3 or 4 episodes a shot. I think you're going to really enjoy it because it's a seminal show, and it's a very ingenious show in the sense that it's like every single episode, MacGyver has to get out of an impossible situation, and the artists are very crafty.
See, because I watched the Stargate TV show, so the dude in Stargate is the main star of MacGyver.
It's like Stargate is like 10,000 times of a worse show than MacGyver, or at least
Stargate is different.
Or MacGyver. I'm sorry.
No, but come on, Stargate is completely different. It's doing stuff that's different. So you can't really compare them because they're different shows doing different things, though. So
I know there's one show that you're going to put on this top 10 list that features a guy.
Don't say anything. Don't say anything.
But he's the discount MacGyver for me. Okay.
My number 8. Now, this is similar to Star Trek: The Next Generation, but different, because this was Star Trek Next Generation, but took things to a much more realer, grittier level. And your boy's number 8 is Battlestar Galactica. An absolutely quality, amazing show. While Star Trek Next Generation played nice and played it's traditional, Battlestar Galactica said, no, we're going to now play it gritty and really bring things down to a truly real hardcore level. I've always felt that the battles in Star Wars should have the same kind of intensity and feel that they do in Battlestar Galactica. In Battlestar Galactica, it was the first time I've ever watched a sci-fi or space show where it feels like you're genuinely in battle. You generally truly feel the threat. And remember, I'm talking about the remake done by Ronald D. Moore, not the original one. And also, this has to have one of the best performances in a TV show by your boy Edward James Olmos, who is, I think he plays Captain Adama in this. He's incredible. But yeah, just the storytelling, the directing, the look, how unique it is. It literally just stands out from pretty much every other sci-fi show that has been made, and I just think like it's really took risks in terms of storytelling, and it pretty much flipped the script as to what you expect from a TV show of this genre. And since, because again, obviously, you've had other shows that are sort of followed, like, I mean, people talk about The Expanse and people talk about, all these other kinds of space shows and everything, but there has never since been a show that has done it as well, quite like Battlestar Galactica did. I just think that, it just has that kind of special sauce, that special kind of sophisticated sauce that just really sets it apart. Actually, like, there are some episodes where like I was like, damn, this is crazy, and it felt, because what they did is, okay, even if they didn't have the budget of a film, it still felt like a film just based on how it was filmed. You
So
know,
how
it used the whole shaky cam thing and everything. So
okay, but how would you like say, all right, so Star Trek is one thing, the Next Generation or whatever, and then Battlestar Galactica is another thing. What separates one? What makes Battlestar the superior show in your estimation?
To Star Trek: The Next Generation,
which was your number 7.
Oh no, so basically, why this is superior is, I think it was more consistent. I think sometimes Star Trek Next Generation would veer off a bit, and there'll be like 3 or 4 episodes that would just sort of like go way off, and they'll then go back. I think Battlestar Galactica maintained what its show was about, and it kept you a lot more hooked, and it took far more risks storytelling wise. There were far more twists in its story than I think the Next Generation.
Is the universe more interesting to you, or no?
Oh no,
because that's a lot of the appeal. A lot of the appeal of these sci-fi shows.
No, I think
the backdrop.
This way, I think I was more interested in I was more interested in the world and in the story of Battlestar Galactica than I was in Next Generation. I think Next Generation was fully 100% centered on the crew. That was the juice. I didn't really care that much about who they were meeting, all that kind of stuff. Battlestar Galactica, the entire world and what was happening on the ship, off the ship, on the different planets was more interesting. And what they did was that there was a storyline that took place on the ship. There's a storyline that took place with the president. There's a storyline that took place on a specific planet. So you had about 3 concurrent storylines running together all the way through the show. So the writers really were more dynamic in what they wanted to do. Whereas and also Ronald D. Moore was actually one of the main writers on Next Generation. So I think he definitely took what he learned from Next Generation and actually brought it into Battlestar Galactica. But I think he took things to a much higher level on this show. So
yeah, I mean, dude, I wish I could chip in with an informed opinion.
So you never watched Battlestar Galactica?
I never watched it, but the only thing I can say is that having grown up with a very deep interest in comic books and sort of geek pursuits before they were cool and before they became sort of mainstream.
Oh, yeah, the whole Comic-Con crap.
Yeah, all that stuff. I can say that Battlestar Galactica was one of the things that kept being thrown in my face and go like, man, you haven't watched Battlestar Galactica, you have to watch it. And I was always very interested in it, and I don't know, it just piqued my interest, but I never got around to watching it. It's a shame.
Basically, I think from the little that we've spoken over the years and everything, months, a year or so, mm-hmm. I think you would like it.
I'll look into it, man. I promise.
I think you, because I think based on this kind of stuff that you've told me that you like, mm-hmm. and based on the TV show that I think you're going to make either your number 1 or your number 2. Basically, put it this way: don't say anything. Don't say anything. There's a TV show that we've talked about that I know that you rate really highly, which is on my list, and I know that it's either number 1 or number 2 on your list. You know me. TV show, this is like a cousin. No, this is like the sci-fi equivalent of that TV show.
Really? That's interesting.
It's like this.
So do people get? It's pretty down and dirty. Do people get roughed up or not?
No. Basically, it's filmed in almost the same kind of color grading as it, and it has the same kind of
don't give away too much, my friend.
Yeah. So no, but I think you're like, all right. So hit me with your number 7, bro.
Number 7, all right. I actually just noticed one thing, man. That it's a damn shame that I didn't include it. I should have probably swapped it for either A-Team or Arrested Development. Probably A-Team because it's got a lot of thematic similarities. And that's the OG Mission Impossible.
Okay.
The OG one. It was such a great show, man.
Very good show.
The one that inspired all, this series of movies. except that these series of movies are sort of the Tom Cruise show. I think it's Tom Cruise at his worst, and it's him like actually you and I both have a big admiration for Tom Cruise.
Oh, huge! He's the dude.
I think we agreed that he's the superstar, the Hollywood superstar, and not only that, he's one of those guys that actually allies the good looks with the acting chops. He has genuine acting chops. But I think for the last decade or so, he's been sort of fucking around with this Mission Impossible franchise, trying to get. It's become like sort of like a stunt porn. It's like, oh, I feel like, what I'd really like to do, man, is to base jump off like the Burj Khalifa. Will somebody like write a script around that? And they
No, you can't hate your boy Tom Cruise, man. Like, we all love him doing his thing, man. We all love your boy Tom Cruise doing his thing.
I love him because he's got a lot of magnetism. I think he's fallen off a little bit of.
He still has it, bro. He still has it.
You think he still has it?
Oh, for sure. He's still that dude. I don't know.
How did I mention that? Oh, okay, all right. So the TV show Mission Impossible was.
Wait, did it have the iconic theme in this show?
Yes, and it's better than most of the movies.
Seriously, whoever came up with that, composed that theme, has to be given a Nobel Peace Prize.
And the theme from the show is better than any of the themes from the movie, barring the Michael Giacchino, who's a genius composer. Michael Giacchino orchestrated composition, whatever, like the score in number 3. In number 3, and you don't agree with this, Mission Impossible 3 is far and away the best Mission Impossible of all time.
For me, do you know what I say?
It was directed by JJ.
Brian De Palma, man. The first one is still the best.
Especially that's you know what?
When the theme kicks in at the ending.
Dude, I've watched the first one 27 times. I still don't know what's going on. That script is completely impossible to
Hey, impossible.
Huh?
No. That's impossible. Yeah.
Maybe that's what the writer was trying to do. I was like, it's an impossible movie. I'll make an impossible script, a script that's impossible to sift through. But anyway, Mission MI3 is my favorite, and I should have switched the Mission Impossible TV show for.
Wait. I think I forgot. Is Martin Landau in
Yes, he's in it. That's what made him.
Guys, I told you, man, don't miss it. When it comes to faces, don't mess with me, man. Don't mess. When it comes, you know what? That's why I've gotten so many autographs from famous people. I am crap at about 99% of everything in life. One thing I'm amazing at is faces. I am amazing at faces because Martin Landau was also in North by Northwest.
Yeah, Leonard Nimoy was also in it. Leonard Nimoy of Star Trek fame, right? And there was one other, Sam Elliott, the great Sam Elliott, of the Double Douche,
Sam Elliott.
And then Martin Landau, as you mentioned, Peter Graves of Airplane fame. Dude, this was the ensemble film, not film, TV show. So I said the A-Team, forget the A-Team, Mission Impossible, man. Go watch Mission Impossible. And they also did that whole shtick with where they put the masks,
Wait. People are really, I hate whenever people are overrating shows because people keep talking about this whole Money Heist. Guys, Money Heist, trust me, can't. Money Heist is nowhere near as good as my top 5. It can't be. So, because I hate whenever people overhype shows and I watch it and I'm like, wait, what the hell? There is no way in hell Money Heist is sniffing my top 5 or my top 6. But
that's crazy. So it's not something that's just like a phenomenon in the Portuguese Netflix. It's actually like getting traction internationally. Money Heist. I didn't know that. Interesting to know. Good for the Spaniards, man.
Yeah, man. Okay, so I'm going to hit you with my number 7, man. Now,
do it.
This is where people.
Did I say my number 7? By the way, I didn't say my number 7.
No, this is your number 7.
No, I said MacGyver, right? And now my number 7, I mentioned Mission Impossible. Sorry, because it just came to my mind.
Okay.
But my number 7 is. Oh,
it's my brother's ringtone. What's it called? Baywatch.
Night Rider, bro.
Night Rider. I know. Yes, he was in Baywatch. Yeah, that's my brother's favorite theme song.
Yeah, favorite, like, amazing theme song, amazing premise, very cool premise. The car is one of the most iconic cars of all time. When cars have featured heavily in movies and TV shows, I would put this way above any Bond car ever seen, or Herbie, or any of these famous cars that you've seen in fiction. And I actually think, it's cool to shit on David Hasselhoff, but he does have some kind of magnetism. It's a little bit of a cheesy magnetism, but he does have it. And if you watch this show growing up in the 80s as I did, there was no way you weren't going to be completely transfixed by that intro, first of all. And then the actual show itself, which is it's a cool show, man. It's well written. It's got that sort of Bond Q dynamic where, like, Michael Knight, the protagonist of the show, goes to meet this guy. I forget what the name of this guy is, but he's sort of like a Michael Caine type, a suave, older British type. And he always has a new invention and a new mission, and it's a really cool. I wish they would that's one show that I wish that they would remake.
Then the danger is it was such an 80s concept that the best thing for them to do is to make a film. Because if they were to remake it into a TV show, they'll cast some cheesy 21-year-old Orange County dude, probably from FX or something.
Yeah.
And it would just become really crass and then they'll basically miss the point of the aesthetic of the show. So pretty much
it's like the Lethal Weapon TV show, which is one of the most brick.
Yeah, they cancelled it
of all time.
Yeah. They had to cancel it because it was so trash.
And the actor that they got to, like, replace Mel Gibson, man, can you imagine? And apparently he was the biggest prick on the planet. Like,
yeah, him.
He thought he was like Madonna from one day to the next, like, because he was the lead in a show that was doomed to fail. Oh man, it's like that show is like has hubris written all over it.
All right, look, man. So let me hit you with my. So we're on 7, isn't it? So this is where guys are going to start to hate me right now. so this is where the beef is going to. So Machina, are you ready for the hate?
Yes, I'm ready for it, man.
Are you ready for the hate? This is my number 7. Breaking Bad. Now, many people would say that this should be number 1. Maybe
but hold on, I'm doing this, but not for the reason you think. But okay.
Oh, okay. Oh, no. Actually, before you say what you say, so people can go and hate on you. Breaking Bad for me is almost near perfect. One of the best. Again, Machine would understand this very well. Him working in the industry, but I'll explain to some people that may not know. So whenever you go to like a studio and you want to sell a film, there's a thing called a log line. And that means you have to sell the idea of your film in 1 sentence.
Yeah.
So tell me why I should give a damn about your film or your story in 1 or 2 sentences. So when you say to me, chemistry teacher, diagnosed with cancer, given a few months to live, decides to cook, using his chemistry knowledge, decides to cook crystal meth in order to leave a legacy for his family, it's like, oh, wow. This is like a twist on the whole Scarface storyline, but told in a much more real kind of way. So I was like, oh, that's fresh. I've never had that before. So again, superb performance by Bryan Cranston, some amazingly well episodes and some very inventive, fresh writing. But I think it could have been truly a masterpiece and been higher up. But there's a dude called Jesse Pinkman, who is one of the most annoying characters of all time. One of the most annoying, the dumbest characters of all time.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, so he's a complete and utter moron. Just a total. You see, he's moronic for the wrong reasons. Because sometimes you can have a moronic character who just beats a moron, but it fits within the story. But no, he's a moron for the wrong reasons, and he detracts from the show. And I do feel that the ending was cool. It was expected, but I just felt that the way that we got towards the ending was a bit like, and there are a few episodes or sections of Breaking Bad where you're like, and everything. But overall, it's still an iconic show. I think the good far outweighs the small bad, just based on just how amazing the story is, some of the crazy episodes, and just how the amount of refreshing things that we've never really been seen done in a TV show before. So for it being so different is why I give it kudos. So, hate on
it. You want me to hit with the back? I'm going to backlash, but not for the reasons you think. I'm going to backlash because you even put it in the number 10, Ben, within your top 10 list, because I think it's one of the most overrated shows of all time. And I'll
say it again, guys. Remember, I will put Machine's Twitter in the description box so all Breaking Bad fans can go and hit it. Say it again. This is from Machine, not me.
If we made like a top 10 list of most overrated shows of all time, this would factor very heavily. It would definitely be in the top 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever. I don't know. I have to think about it, but definitely up there. This show got on my radar. It's a good premise. You're right. I agree with you that it's a great premise. But the reason why this show got on my radar is because Anthony Hopkins, back in the day, wrote this open letter to Bryan Cranston. And Anthony Hopkins is one of my favorite actors and somebody I really respect.
Wait. Very briefly, many people always say Silence of the Lambs, and people just think that he's a one-trick pony. If you've seen either Elephant Man, and I would argue what he does as Odin is one of the most underrated.
I mean, there's he has an entire career of being amazing. Even in Meet Joe Black, he's just amazing. He doesn't have to. He's one of those dudes that just can sit.
Basically, no, because he's one of my least favorites of his roles. Basically, Silence of the Lambs is probably one of my least favorites of his roles. I prefer a lot more of his other stuff than Silence of the Lambs, but he just keeps putting the whole, hey, hello, Clarice, all that kind of stuff.
Okay, but we're getting a little sidetracked, and the reason why I respected and this show got into my radar, and I think a lot of other people's radars, is because Anthony Hopkins wrote this open letter saying to Bryan Cranston that how floored he was by his performance and everything. And I was like, holy shit. Dude, if Anthony Hopkins is saying this, then I need to get in on this action. And so I watched the show. And I have to say, every single thing about the show is overrated to me. Starting from, it's overrated because, I hate to go against the great Anthony Hopkins, but I think that Bryan Cranston is just doing Bryan Cranston. It's the same Bryan Cranston that I've seen before in that Malcolm in the Middle show, and it's the same Bryan Cranston that I've seen since in every other thing he's featured in. So I don't think it's a transformative performance. I don't think it's a particularly nuanced performance, given the character he was.
I get what you're saying there, but I would still say though that it is because again I used to watch Malcolm in the Middle as well.
Huh?
You can definitely see a lot of Malcolm in the Middle in there because it is a dramatic comedic character. But I think we need to. I would still give him some credit because there were definitely some scenes where he really dug really deep into his dramatic bag.
Dude, honestly, I think Anthony Hopkins was doing MDMA or whatever, but when he was watching the show, and he must have been off his gourd when he wrote that letter. But this is my opinion. It's one of those shows that I should have discarded. And that scene where he shows up at the OG's hood, and this guy's like one of the most feared guys in his whatever, man, in his hood. What do you call him? And he's like a gangster, like a proper gangster, and he's surrounded by dudes with Uzis and everything. and this dude shows up with like he mixes like a little pill MacGyver style, but like even more stupid because this is a show that's trying to get itself to be taken seriously. And he like throws it on the floor, blows up half of his headquarters, and walks away in slow motion with shit blowing up behind him.
Yeah. I mean,
immediately this show is trash. Anthony Hopkins said this. I'm going to continue watching it, and I did, right? And I kept like being reminded about how the show was trash. One of the times was, I'm glad I have all this thing like stuck in my mind, man, still, because otherwise I would just be blathering about like why the show is bad and without being able to articulate why. But I actually can remember. There's this one episode where Pinkman kills somebody. No, wait, he kills somebody with a fridge by mistake. Some junkie with a fridge, right? He lets a fridge drop and the junkie dies. And because Pinkman, because that happened, all of a sudden he gets street cred. Like everybody on the streets thinks Pinkman is like super hardcore and shit. Not because it made any sense, but because the writers needed it to.
Do you know what really pissed me off?
No, but wait, let me tell you when I stopped, because I thought the guy that ran the McDonald's and he was like the super gangster behind everything. And,
God's frame.
I thought that was completely unfeasible and just impossible to swallow and cheesy, among other things. But the thing that got me to stop watching definitively, I was like, all right, this is the retardation levels are reaching, just over the line for me. Was this this episode where it's Pinkman trying to swat a fly, and it's him trying to swat a fly the entire episode.
Yeah.
And I guess the writers are trying to like pretend they were smart with this because it was such a unique and novel idea. But I was like, all right, I'm out. This is a cartoon. This is.
But do you know what was really annoying for me? The most annoying thing that I find is how they get the white characters to try and talk quote unquote black, and how they make them use all of these kind of colloquialisms and everything. Hey, yo. And I don't know. I just found that just really, really annoying.
Dude, but it's not. But that's stereotypes.
Okay. So your young one hasn't watched this. So for a guy who hasn't watched this, would you recommend Breaking Bad?
Me, absolutely not. It's a Netflix show. For me, it's a Netflix show prior to Netflix existing. It's one of those like shut your brain off, like stupid entertainment where you're like you're getting stupider by the minute as you watch it. You don't realize why. Everybody says it's super cool, so like, oh, okay, dude, it's like it's zombie entertainment for me, really. And I'm sorry to say this because a lot of people rate it so highly and talk about people hating me, but it's my feeling.
All right, so let's write on. So we're now on 6 now, are we?
We're on. Sorry, man.
I think it should be 6. That was so that was. Oh no! Wait, yeah, okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry, man. 5. Number 5.
Is it 5 or 6? It should be 6.
No, 6 was Knight Rider for me, and 5. Can I say my 5 because it's my turn?
Wait. Let me just. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Okay. So what was your number 6 then?
It's I'm trying to remember the opening track, man. But Cheers. We all remember Cheers, man.
Okay, so 6 is number 6. Then. Okay.
We all love Cheers because it featured. You remember Cheers, right? Is it in your list or no?
That's what broke. What's the name of that dude? The
Woody Harrelson.
Woody Harrelson. Yeah.
Woody Harrelson, but not just Woody Harrelson. The main guy was Sam something. I'm forgetting his name, but he was the main dude. And just the same way that I mentioned Friends.
Wait. Is Ted Danson in this?
Yes, of course, Ted Danson. That's what launched Ted Danson.
Yeah.
I just remembered the song, by the way. It's like where everybody knows your name.
Mm.
Dun, dun, dun,
No. It's an iconic show.
dun. Yeah, great intro.
But see now, you see now we're showing our age now.
We're showing our age, man, for sure, man. Yeah. But this is, people in the chat are probably looking at us like we're crazy.
No, they're like, wait, cheers. Do you mean like cheers as in cheers in a pole? Like, oh, cheers. I'm like, oh,
Oh,
cheers.
yeah.
No, sorry, cheers.
Dude, it's such a great concept, like a bar, right? And it's a seedy bar, but it's the bar that it's what actually, if you're living in England,
And also again, great writing.
you know
Most
all
of the stuff
because
takes place in a bar.
everybody has a local pub, right? In England,
Yeah.
there's a big drinking culture. There's a huge drinking culture in Boston, right? Boston is as close to England as it gets in the States.
Mm.
And of course, this was set in Boston, where everybody has their local pub, so to speak. It's not called pub; it's called a bar.
Never heard of cheers.
But everybody has it. Never heard of Cheers, man. Go check it out immediately. But anyway, I was speaking of Friends. I know that it's sacrilege for some people to put Friends in the same sort of foothold as or footing as Cheers, but I would put it there because I think what attracted me to Cheers is much of the same things that attracted me to Friends, which was the budding romance between Ted Danson and Diane, I believe her name was called, and that arc, right?
Mm.
Where it was this guy that was sort of like a very cheeky, very full of himself.
Let me just quickly stop here. See, I always prefer adult romance over kind of teenagey kind of thingy romance. See, the thing with Friends was that kind of romantic tension was just, I always find the romantic tension of like the stuff in Cheers just a bit much more interesting.
Well, because it's more believable because Ted Danson, the character that he plays, and I forget the name of the character, even though I rate the show so highly, but after lots of years of doing this, your brain starts playing tricks on you. It's more believable because he's a playboy. He's a playboy that's full of himself, right? And you can tell he gets pussy like that, right? He just gets chicks by the boatload. Whereas with Friends, it's an inversion of that. It's Rachel,
kind of geekier kind of guy,
geeky guy that gets on her radar. You know what I mean? And it's not an unpredictable, but it's an unseemly pairing.
Also, another thing is also I just feel like the actors are better in Cheers than they are in Friends. I think Friends is just good chemistry, but Cheers, look, what's it called? It's launched one of the top actors of his own right in Woody Harrelson. Like there is no one even close to a Woody Harrelson on Friends, So and that's where Woody Harrelson came from. So I just think the acting quality.
I used to live, I lived in LA, as I told you, and I used to go to the same barber shop as Chandler. Chandler was always there getting his fucking thing done. Yeah, but anyway,
okay.
What's the name of the bartender dude that you just mentioned?
Is it Woody Harrelson?
Woody Harrelson. All right, he went on to have a great career, but another person that went on to have a great career, and I would say is a better love interest than the first one, because the first two seasons was Ted Danson sort of trying to swoon this girl named Diane. There was a very sort of headstrong, very empowered woman, and he was sort of like a chauvinist pig type, but an endearing one. And eventually, she was, what is this, man? Oh, okay, sorry.
Oh yeah. Do you remember this?
But she sort of his charms got the better of her, basically, and that was interesting. That was a very interesting arc to see. But then she screwed off. I don't know why. Maybe she got greater ambitions for her career. Pay like sort of disputes behind the scenes, I think probably were involved. But she got replaced by somebody named Kirstie Alley, who people probably don't know, but her, she was a big deal. She was a big deal in the 90s and in the mid 90s. She was a huge deal because of Cheers.
Oh, massive. She was huge.
Yeah, it all started with Cheers. Then she got bloated and she got very sort of overweight and lost her mojo, basically. But she was a very attractive young lady back in the day. And I think that the chemistry that she had with Ted Danson was even greater than the chemistry that he had with his previous co-star.
Okay.
Watch it. Watch the first 4 seasons of it. It was such a big show that it led to a spin-off that we all know as well called Frasier. Maybe some of the people in the chat know it better than.
Yeah, Kelsey Grammer was also in this as well. Yeah.
Cheers, and Kelsey Grammer started his career with Cheers.
No, this is weird. Okay, thank you for super chat, Alakuma. He says, I still can't believe Machine is not. This guy, he thought that hearing your voice that you were black.
I don't know. Maybe I think like a black dude. I don't know, like or speak at. Maybe who knows?
Yeah. I mean, I never thought that. I always knew that you were like.
But I hate to disappoint.
Yeah. I always knew that. No, you're a machine. So I mean, the way he knows that, yeah, I probably didn't think that you looked like this, but I'm not that surprised because sometimes the voice never matches the face. So I think that's always the weird thing. All right, let me write my number 6, man. Now this is a classic.
Check out my genetic code. Maybe I have like at least 10% black. I wish
you may have some Nigerian in you, man. So we're gonna claim you. We're gonna claim you. Okay, so look, man, this is a big one. This is a huge one. This was a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah.
And this TV show launched arguably one of the biggest movie stars of all time. And I had to put it in here. And this was hard for me to place it. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Iconic show. Superb show. Comedy is hard. Comedy is real hard. And it is even a greater testament when you can maintain a high level of quality and not falter after doing so many seasons. I think Fresh Prince went for about 6 or 7 seasons, and they kept on going through again and again and again. So a little bit of a tidbit is basically Will Smith was so desperate for this show, so he kept on pounding, that. And Quincy Jones, who obviously produced Off the Wall and Thriller, he came up with the concept of this show. And Will Smith, so basically Will Smith was so desperate.
Hold on, Quincy Jones came up with the god. That's
yep. So Quincy Jones was the executive producer, and he was one of the main
a music producer that's so big up as he is, as Quincy Jones is.
Oh no. So, I mean, but he was definitely a cool creator.
Basically, snap his fingers and shit happens, and that's an example.
Oh no. Like Jones is not a joke, bro.
I have this concept for a show, make it happen. And not only does it happen, it becomes one of the seminal shows of all time. That's crazy.
And also, so basically, Will Smith, he was so desperate for this show to do well. Mm-hmm. He pretty much said he memorized everyone's lines. So when someone else was speaking, he would pretty much mouth what they were saying. And he said that, you know what, because this was his first big acting gig. So obviously after the first season, he sort of cooled off and then he then went through. But I mean, because I've always said that, and maybe when we do top 10 movie stars or something afterwards, like when you look how, I think people really underrate what Will Smith did in Men in Black. Because I think that is one of the great movie star debuts of all time. Will Smith in Men in Black. And I think when you look at what Will Smith did on this show and how he carried this show, it's absolutely insane. And even if it was done in the early 90s, the beauty of the show is it hasn't aged. So obviously when you say, okay, maybe there's some early 90s things, but if you showed this show to a 16-year-old or a 23-year-old, they'd still find it funny because there are obviously particular comedic stereotypes within the show that's people who are 20 years old who weren't even a thought in the early 90s would still find funny, So obviously stuff for us, we'd find a lot of the more hidden gems more funny because we knew what was around during the 90s, the early 90s, and so forth. But there's still everyone for something for everyone, man. But it's an amazing show and definitely one of the best.
Actually, I loved the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Thought it was a great show. I would say that thematically, these two shows have nothing to do with one another, but they sort of competed. And the similarities that they have was that they both featured an all black cast. And for me, my favorite of the two between Fresh Prince and this one was the latter, Martin. And it starred
I never
Martin.
saw Martin. I don't know why. Because basically, do you know what it was? Is that we only could see what was shown to us in Nigeria. So obviously, Fresh Prince came to us in Nigeria, but they never really brought Martin to us in Nigeria.
Well, but the thing is, I think Martin Lawrence actually, and it's funny that they co-star because maybe that's why they co-starred in Bad Boys, is because they had these two competing shows. For me, Martin Lawrence was always the most talented of the two.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. For he's
much more troubled. You know what I mean? Like Will Smith is on the ball. He knows exactly what to do to get to stardom, and he did it impeccably. Martin Lawrence is
Takumi, I think you may have missed out, but your boy on the right's completely crapped on Breaking Bad. So if you want to have any issues, take it to your boy on the right.
Up against me, man. But yeah, I was more of a Martin Lawrence sort of dude. Even though the shows are Martin Lawrence, his show was much more working class, and Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was sort of like a retake of the Cosby Show. I hated the Cosby Show, by the way. I didn't think the Cosby Show had any merit other than Lisa Bonet looking super attractive. I just didn't like the Cosby.
I mean, Lisa Bonet was back then. Oh,
I never found Cosby all that fun. I never found him funny, and I'm glad that I didn't because I found out all this twisted shit.
But boy, remember her in Lisa Bonet in Angel Heart?
Yeah, dude, that's a lot of material for me, in my youth. You know what I mean?
Actually, no. Actually, no. We have to have I think maybe at another time we have to have a conversation about Angel Heart and Mickey Rourke and what Mickey Rourke could have been.
Dude, Mickey Rourke is like that performance in Angel Heart is amazing. And
because that's like a very old school film performance. So I don't know many 20-year-olds would understand the kind of old school thing of. But yeah, look, that's a separate. So let's go to your number 5. What's your number 5?
What are you thinking? Can you imagine?
Is what?
Can you throw something out there? Just throw something out there.
Of what I think your number 5 is?
Yes.
It definitely isn't what I think it is, because I think this is either your number 2 or your number 1. So I'm going to say, let me just address my list.
Actually, somebody mentioned a show. Can I go up here a little bit? Somebody mentioned a show that definitely needed a mention, and I'm sorry that I didn't.
I have no idea because I know it's not any of the ones that I have. I know it's not any of the ones that I have. So hit me with it.
I'll hit you with it, and I didn't include it in our last list of cartoons. Remember, because it's not a cartoon. That's the truth of it, and but it is a kids show. Ostensibly, but for me, it's one of the very greatest shows of all time. It's called Jim Henson's The Storyteller. Oh yeah, Dr. Bell. Dr. Bell mentioned Twilight Zone, which is a fantastic show. Easily could have been in my top 10 if I had thought it out a little bit more in depth. Good call. Pardon?
So your number 5 is Jim Henson's The Storyteller.
Jim Henson's The Storyteller, which was a kids show, but a kids show that was extremely edgy because of how scary and moody and sort of dark it was. Truly dark. There's this one episode that I urge everybody to go watch it now. Google it immediately. That I think is a masterpiece of storytelling called. It's actually called The Soldier in Death. The Soldier in Death. I think I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. And it's just so amazingly crafted. And it actually features one of the dudes from Alien. It's John Hurt.
Cool.
Hurt is the storyteller. So it's got top caliber actors, actually. and people that you wouldn't assume to have featured in the show, but that went on to have very strong careers in their own right, and they all sort of got their.
Okay, so did it come around the same time as the Muppets?
I don't know if it came around at the same time as the Muppets, but I know that it was one of the last contributions that Jim Henson gave to the world, right? With this puppetry, his amazing puppetry. When just as at the time when puppetry was practical special effects were on the way out, and CGI was sort of starting to creep in with its terrible tendrils. And yes, so this is all practical. The storyteller, all I remember watching it as a kid and being transfixed in this episode in particular. There's this scene where there's these little devils, and they're playing cards, and they're getting super angry because they're losing with this soldier, right? Who has this trick up his sleeve. I watched the episode to get it. But it was the way that, first of all, it was practical special effects, so it's puppetry. And I was like a 4 or 5-year-old looking at it. And I was so spooked by what I was looking at, but so transfixed at the same time. And the music and everything is just tonally so expertly directed. Just to look at it. And this is, I'm talking about the high watermark of the show.
Jim Henson is that dude, man. Like Jim Henson has always been that dude. He's always been that dude, man.
Yeah, but every other episode is stellar, but this is the high watermark of the show. So like, give it a shot. Just Google Soldier in Death. Watch that episode. It's going to take 35 minutes of your time, if that. If you're not hooked, then whatever. But give it a shot. You owe it to yourself.
Okay. Now this is where things get interesting. Now, Machine, when I say this, I don't want any kind of reaction from you.
Okay.
So do we have a deal? Like what's Pinky? So basically, Pinky swear that no kind of reaction from us. This is my number 5. And guys, this is a show that if you don't have brass balls, you can't watch this show, because this show is the very definition of hard hitting and saying F you with regards to what a TV show should be like. So my number 5 is The Shield. A absolutely amazing, absolutely amazing. I said no reaction, bro. I said no reaction.
I'm sorry.
So basically, an absolutely amazing show. As in, there is, because again, I don't want to give anything away. There is a particular thing that happens on an episode of this that is still etched in my mind. And ever since I saw this thing, I don't want to give it away. And obviously, you probably know what it is. Ever since I saw this thing, I was like, what?
There's a few of them.
No, but there's one particular one where
I know what it is. Yeah,
I was like, if I was in that position, would I actually do that? And if I did do that, what would happen to me if I didn't do that? Because if I did that, I can't take it away. That's now in my memory forever. But when you look at what situation he was in, he had to do that extremely heinous thing, or else he wouldn't survive. It was either he does that or he gets killed. Because basically, it's a cop show unlike any other. Because it's about this guy, this cop, but also this team of a cop, and just how they go about in a very unique way of dealing with crime in LA and so forth. So obviously, any rap fans out there, Sticky Fingers actually makes a cameo appearance in one of the episodes. But yeah, it's again, CCH Pounder is obviously in it. She's flipping amazing. But and of course, one of the great cameos in anything, Forrest Whitaker. Like what Forrest Whitaker does on his run in that is absolutely insane. But yeah, like it's because I think when NYPD Blue came, that made a big impression because look at how real it is. But the Shield just pushed things to a whole other level beyond what NYPD Blue, Law and Order, or Homicide Life on the streets did. And the reason why I like the Shield is that, again, which is why I always like, is that there are no archetypes. You don't have the villain archetype, the hero archetype. Even the main character is so flawed. That is like that.
They're all multi-dimensional. They all have different. You know what the thing is? They all seem to have different dimensions, but they don't really. Ultimately, we all have one dimension, I feel. But they all look at themselves in different ways. You know what I mean? In multi-layered ways, in multi-dimensional ways. You know what I mean? None of the characters who are doing evil shit think that they're actually doing evil shit.
And I think because
they can all like sort of, they can all sort of like fool themselves so convincingly into thinking that they're not, that they fool the audience along with them. But I'm getting ahead of myself, man.
Yeah, but see, just lastly before I go to number 4, I think so for any Breaking Bad fanboys that'll be like, blah, 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 blah. It sees like, see, Breaking Bad is like, it's cool. Shield is real. And for me, the Shield is just a more sophisticated, higher level brand of storytelling and acting than Breaking Bad. See, and this is the key thing. This list isn't a list of popularity. If this is a list of popularity, then Breaking Bad and Game of Thrones will be high on top. This has nothing to do with popularity. This is about quality.
Okay.
This is mainly about quality, and quality has nothing to do with popularity. So yeah, that is my 5. So what is your number 4, dear sire?
Dear sire.
Dear sire.
Oh, dear sire. Okay, my number 4 is. This is the one that I was sort of iffy about whether or not it was a reality show or not, but it's the Ali G show. Which I think is the only piece of British comedy that I think is truly genius. Well, there's one more. It's Ricky Gervais doing his Golden Globe shtick. But other than that, I'm usually a little bit annoyed by British comedy. I think we mentioned this in passing.
I did not see that coming, bro.
But my distaste for Monty Python, you remember that, right?
Yeah.
I have a huge
Ali G show.
I have a huge distaste as well for this show that you must be familiar with, that was very critically acclaimed when it came out, and that to me is one of the worst pieces of filth I've ever seen. Not filth in the sense that it's that it's transgressive or anything, but in the sense that it's poor. It's just like bad at every level, and that's called Little Britain. You remember Little Britain?
Yeah, I remember that, bro.
It was this. They had like 3 characters that just repeated the same joke over and over and over again, and somehow that got conflated into being sophisticated humor because it was British. Oh, you don't like Little Britain? Oh, Little Britain is so funny, man. It's like Little Britain, and it's like it was like the same joke over like this. What was the character that?
Bro, I hardly watched Little
in the wheelchair. You remember the character in the wheelchair that would go? Whatever, man. I don't want to I shouldn't even waste. I'm glad that this show sort of like got lost in obscurity, and that people don't know about it. But back in the day, believe it or not, people are talking about it as if it was the next best thing. But anyway, so Monty Python annoys me. That annoys me, and The Office of Ricky Gervais annoys me as well, because I feel like it's a rote one-trick pony over 2 seasons. But this is true genius. This, Sacha Baron Cohen, what he gave to us, and the characters that he crafted, and his balls and his courage to dig deep and to really.
Bro, I think you're getting some hate here, bro. Bro, please don't compare this to Monty Python.
I don't appreciate what General Kroll says, but but I'll have to. Although, like, I appreciate that you watch HH's channel, obviously, and keep doing so. But I'm under no obligation to appease to you. But
Wait, machine. No, like I encourage people that just do whatever they want to do here, man. So look, do you know how much hate I receive? And you see, I love hate because I love the debate. So I love hate, and based because you just made a comment, and when I reveal what my number thingy is, I'm gonna have a bone to pick with you. Spoil, carry on.
right, some dude said a white dude acting black is gonna set HH off, man. That's not me, is it? No, that's Ali G. Okay, all right. But it's still funny because that's a real phenomenon, and it's not even a white dude acting black. That's the genius thing about it.
Like
it's an Indian guy acting black. Huh?
He's like Jewish. Basically, he's
no, it's an Indian guy acting black, which is
yeah.
so funny, man. Which I'm sure exists in the UK because it's like there's all sorts of different influences. Cultural influences that go into the English sort of backdrop. But what was I going to say? This was about what? It's not just about that. Ali G is a genius character for me because it's a wannabe character. It's a character that tries to pose as something that he isn't, right?
For me, I think, wait, what's that Kazakhstani dude that he...
But that's an hilarious character as well. But like Borat is a hilarious character, but totally different.
For me.
But totally different because that's more of like a slapstick sort of humor, where it's more physical humor. But although it is a stereotype that everybody can sort of latch onto, which is the Eastern European guy that's out of his element, you know what I mean? And then the final character that he has, and all these are offensive in today's world, is Bruno, which is the flaming gay.
Oh yeah, the fashion dude,
right? But some of the situations that he gets people into and the things that they say and that he coerces people to say are so ludicrous. By the way, have you seen the Donald Trump one?
Where he's Donald Trump?
He interviews Donald Trump?
Oh, no, I haven't seen that, no.
You haven't seen this shit where he interviews Donald Trump?
No. Look, see, my thing is that I think Borat, I thought, was pretty genius and everything. Ali G had some amusing moments, but I think overall, I don't know, I just felt a bit iffy about the whole thing. Something about it just felt a bit like the Ali G show. It just basically it rubbed me the wrong way. So basically, remember, I live in England, so this was huge when it came out in England, and it was the big, massive thing. But I just never really wrote it. And I'm not a big Sacha Baron Cohen.
I think he's since fallen off the rails, but back then he was a true genius, and the things that he got people to say, that's the shtick. I mean, he sits down with real people.
Whenever he went to America, was it
questions to Buzz Aldrin, one of the few people to have landed on the moon, and he asks questions like, "Will people ever land? Will man ever land on the sun?" and and he gets like actual responses from people. That's genius in its own right. But it's funny that all these people give him the time of day, and they think that they're sort of like one-upping him because he's playing such an idiot. But they're actually, the genius is that they're actually digging themselves further and further into a hole because he exposes their own idiocies.
Yeah.
I think they're far ahead of him. And it's funny that Donald Trump is the one guy that gives him 2 seconds. Because, all right, here's the premise. So Ali G goes to a marketing company, right? Because he's got this genius idea. And what's the genius idea? The genius idea is the ice cream glove. Because everybody likes ice cream, right? He does this diagram of the people that eat ice cream. And then another diagram with a huge number of people that have hands, right? And then he has a third diagram, and the number is so big that he can only fit it vertically. ice cream. People who have hands. What does everybody need? The ice cream glove. And he's pitching this to people like the serious marketing agency.
Mm.
One of the idiots actually says, "You know what? There's something to it. There's really something to it. You can put it in your hand, can brand it. There's something to it." He actually he starts mulling over whether or not people going to buy an ice cream glove just in case they want to buy ice cream is a good idea. But but he sits down with Donald Trump, and in his conversation with Donald Trump, pitching the ice cream glove is genius. Especially,
No, look, man, it's like, look, I mean, Ali, like, I respect the artistry. It's just that for me, I just don't get it. It's like the whole Friends thing. It's like, if you don't get the comedy, it's quite hard to really fully appreciate it if you don't really.
And by the way, and if it's something that you're like sort of, it doesn't sit too well with you, like the fact that he sort of embodies these stereotypes, right? His whole shtick is exposing stereotypes, not stereotypes, but exposing prejudices in the show. So it's not like he's making. I don't think he's ill-intentioned at all. He's a very liberally minded, very. Well, I'm not going to convince you one way or the other, but it's a fantastic show. One of the few British shows that I think is genuinely hilarious from start to finish, and that's my choice for number 4.
Keeping it on British shows, I think that because again, for me, I'm not really big on British comedy. Like, I'm almost with you. Like, most English comedy, I just don't get. Like, and I think that's the thing with comedy. Like, I just don't get English comedy. But for me, is not only the funniest English comedy. This is the funniest comedy. This is one of the funniest comedy sitcoms ever. This is hands down the funniest character in any sitcom of all time, and that, of course, is The Office. UK. So for me, just a little backtrack is there was a TV program from England called Operation Good Guys, and they were the first to really popularize the whole mockumentary format, and they actually won an award for it. And again, like, obviously, watch if you can watch the first season of Operation Good Guys, definitely watch that. Amazing. So The Office pretty much got the idea from that, but whereas I believe that Operation Good Guys did the idea far better, The Office had David Brent. And again, I'm not a big fan of Ricky Gervais because I don't think he's that funny. I'm not really a fan of his brand of humor. But he found gold with David Brent. David Brent is, because he's not only a funny character, it's just an amazing character. It's an amazingly well detailed character, and the rewatchability on The Office is insane. But you see, whereas you look like The Office, because you use the word one trick pony, The Office US is a one trick pony because The Office US just regurgitates the same dumb line again and again. See, the thing with The Office UK is that they knew
what's the difference in the UK?
What is it?
What's the big difference in the UK version?
They knew that this joke can't last beyond 2 seasons.
Okay.
So they knew that
Dude, but that's not enough to go like, all right, so we're doing the same joke over and over again.
No.
Presence of mind can't last beyond 2 seasons.
No. Basically, no.
One of the greatest shows of all time.
The main difference is The Office UK did it far better, and it was far more nuanced. So they could have kept on going, but they knew that, look, we have something quality here, but we can only be as fresh and as imaginative for 2 seasons, really. But The Office US, even from the very first episode, first of all, they tried to carbon copy what The Office UK did, but when The Office US started to now do it off their own back, it was just really crap because America doesn't do subtlety well. America just does more in-your-face comedy really well. But America doesn't know how to do subtle, subliminal comedy. That is England's shtick. That is what they do amazing well, is subliminal, subtle comedy. And I think The Office UK, just the way that the characters are written, the way they interact within each other, David Brent and Gareth are absolutely an amazing chemistry. And yeah, it's like there are I can watch an episode of The Office UK now and I will laugh out loud, literally with tears in my eyes, laugh my face out loud. It is because the way the lines are delivered, the situations that are set up, the different kinds of scenarios, and what they do is, you see, whereas The Office US, they make the gimmick a gimmick and make it cheesy. It's like, oh, hey, we've got a camera here. Oh, this guy's looking at the camera. But The Office UK, like, no, let's try and make this as realistic as possible to make you feel as if a real crew are filming this. Basically, put it this way. When I first watched The Office UK, I thought it was a real documentary. But I say, oh man, this guy's weird. Somebody say, oh no, it's not a documentary. It's a TV show that's trying to be
a documentary.
Yeah, just that when I first saw it, because I caught it in the middle of an episode, I thought it was a real documentary.
I think that's the greatest. If I'm going to pitch in with my own opinion, and I already sort of said that I don't really rate The Office. I think that its greatest sort of addition and contribution to the world of entertainment is that it really popularized the mockumentary, the fake documentarian approach, which The Shield, which we spoke about, does as well, but in a completely different genre. But I would say that it is very one note. It is very the same joke over and over again, because it was trying to appeal to the realism side of things. I always thought it was incredibly unrealistic that the boss of these miserable people working in confined spaces and very rote sort of jobs would not even go out of their way to pretend that they found him funny. You know what I mean? The whole shtick is like, he says a joke, right? And then everybody's like sitting stone-faced, looking at their boss. And not a single soul is trying to appease to him other than, I guess, Gareth or whatever his face is.
No. I mean, but
that's just not believable, man.
No. But in a situation like that, trust me, because even when when you watch the early episodes, you see some of them are trying to laugh awkwardly and everything. But when a guy is so awkward, it is impossible to fake it. All you can do is somewhat laugh, but be like, okay, and everything. So it's like, because extreme in his character that it is impossible to even fake laugh. You just have to be like, okay.
But my thing is, I find myself in the opposite spectrum of you in one sense, which is you're not that much of a fan of Ricky Gervais, but you appreciated what he did in The Office. I did the way around. I didn't like what he did in The Office, and that opinion was sort of substantiated in my mind with what he did next, which was this horrible comedic stand-up comedy routine called Animals. Which is one of the most embarrassingly bad stand-up.
Not very good, man.
Stand-up acts that I've ever seen. And then he went from that to doing his Golden Globe roasts, which I have to believe he paired up with somebody genuinely talented. And he's just he's being the actor. He's delivering it, and he's delivering it quite well. I'll have to be honest, but the writing is too on point, and it has nothing to do with what he did before. You know what I mean? In The Office and in Animals, and he did another show called that was about the backstage of
extras
exactly. I watched a few episodes. I like that more than I like The Office, but I still didn't think it was. I think there was too much of a Gervais handprint in it.
Let me just take some comments here. So he said, but Danny T, the whole point of The Office, what makes it so good, is that it is cringy. It's supposed to be cringy.
But it's not cringe because it's not real. What's too cringe is Ali G. We were just speaking about Ali G, and you didn't enjoy Ali G. That's real though.
You see, the thing with Ali G,
those reactions that you get from people, like when somebody makes a fool of themselves, it doesn't really. I mean, they do it over and over again. It gets tired when you know that it's a written.
But you know, the thing with allergy is that even if allergy is actually real, it somewhat still felt fake to me. Because as I was watching it, I was like, surely this must be a setup. Because there was just something about it that
it is a setup. It is a setup. He's trying to like. So here's
no. It felt as if the whole thing was a setup. That even the person that is supposed to be real, I just felt like, oh, that person must be a setup as
the reaction is real. The reaction is real.
You see, that's why I feel the reaction is fake and everything, you know. But what should I think another guy say? You see, this is a perfect summation of the US Office. The US Office is Ross and Rachel, but without laughter. That literally is what the US Office is just a romantic show. Literally, like, it makes no sense. It's literally a Ross and Rachel setup. But no, US Office is trash, man. It's a few funny moments, but it's trash.
I will say this. With The Office, because I was in Madrid actually when The Office was really a big deal, and everybody who was anyone was saying how genius this show was. I watched it and I thought it's all right. And I watched one episode. The second one is the same. The third one is the same. The fourth one is the same. And on and on and on. It was like the same formula, basically. David Brent making a fool of himself with that guy, his right-hand man, licking his, licking his ass and trying to ingratiate himself with him, but and thinking he's way, having a self-impression that's totally divorced from reality. And on and on and on. And then finally, I was like, this show is extremely overrated. Finally, I saw an episode with true heart and that actually made you feel for the characters, which was the very last episode. That was the send-off. Finally, like an episode with true, where you feel like these people are humans and not just stereotypes. You know what I mean? And that's the first time I felt that was in the send-off in the very last episode. And I was like, well, now I want to watch more of the show. But did we really have to have 200 episodes of filler or whatever it was to get to that? You know what I mean? David Brent finally felt like a human character instead of a stereotype and a one-note sort of...
No. I mean, as much as I liked those last episodes, I was all about the 2 seasons. Those 2 seasons are gold, absolute gold, bro. Give me your number 3, man. Give me your number 3, bro.
You're getting annoyed with this shit.
Yeah, I'm actually.
All right. All right, number 3. What do you think it is? The X-Files, man. The X-Files, and I think it's one of the most brilliantly written shows of all time. It got long in the tooth, like any show that's as incredibly
very impactful, though,
as X-Files was. But I think that the first 3, maybe 4, if we're being generous, 5 seasons of the X-Files were top caliber, top quality entertainment, and especially the first 2 were really just completely blew the lid off things. An amazing premise, amazingly well written, amazingly executed, very tonally interesting, very in terms of the cinematography and everything. And dude, I remember first of all, everybody would stop to watch the X-Files when I was growing up. And I remember one show in particular in the second season, which is about this guy named Edward Toombs. I don't know if you remember him.
Crawled through the really tight space.
Stretch, into the crawl spaces and everything. And I remember thinking that's one of the freakiest things I've ever seen, man. Is this show really on now? Like, this is freaking me out, scarring me for life, and it's like on primetime television. Older, and the glaring flaw for me with the X-Files is, in a sense, similar to the one of The Office, where it becomes repetitive, the character dynamics, right? Where Mulder is the guy that just believes everything. Scully, and Scully in particular, I have a problem with, because she's unseemly. She's like unbelievably. She just doesn't believe anything. She's unbelievably skeptic. You know what I mean? She's overly skeptic. If I was Scully and I would have gone in real life through 3 episodes of the X-Files, I would believe anything you tell me, man. If you told me Hillary Clinton was a reptile, I'd, oh, yeah, maybe. Who knows? But Scully goes through the most twisted shit, the most mind-blowing shit. You can imagine there can be like, space aliens invading the planet, and she's talking about the statistical probabilities of that not being real. You know what I mean? And that's just not believable to me. So the Scully character I have a particular problem with. Other than that, I think that if they had closed out in the 3rd or 4th season, it would have been higher up on my list. But because they didn't, it got a little long in the tooth, a little unseemly, a little unbelievable, a little, they stretched too much the what do you call it? Dude, I forget it. Forget it. Just
see, that's why, like, see, I've not watched, because I wanted, because again, X-Files was huge when I was around and growing up, because it was one of my brother's favorite shows. But I because I know that I'm going to watch it fully from the beginning and everything. But the reason why I put it on my list is that I haven't really watched it fully. But even I know from even what you're saying is that, man, like, those are a lot of seasons. And for a show like this, it should really be like a 3-4 season thing and have a definitive ending, because it's a great concept, a really great concept, because everybody believes in the whole, Area 51, what is the government hiding? Oh, the paranormal, these things that can't be explained. Everyone is into that. And I think they played into that whole thing very well. And just Mulder is a kind of character. You see, Mulder is literally the quintessential conspiracy theorist. And everybody, we know at least one conspiracy theorist. We know at least one Mulder. We have at least Mulder in our family or an extended family.
The Mulder character for us is a straight edge dude, because in the world of the X-Files, in the world that they built and that they're propositioning to the audience and to the viewership, Mulder's a straight edge dude. He's absolutely right about most things. That's the truth of it, He's like talking about Bigfoot, and then the show actually goes on to show you that Bigfoot actually exists. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like the opposite of Scooby-Doo, the cartoon. Most of us don't really like all that much, because at the end, it's always some dude dressed up as whatever spooky thing he was trying to pass off.
Scooby-Doo is overrated, man.
This is the opposite. It's an inversion of that, where you think that there's it's just some it's a totally explainable thing, but then you probe deeper and you realize that it's truly twisted, and it's truly metaphysical and truly unexplainable. So in that world, in the world that the X-Files presents to the audience, Mulder he's totally right about everything, and it's Scully that's an unreasonable skeptic. It's like, how long is the skepticism believable before it becomes too incredulous? And I think, to me, past the 2nd season, it was just like, shut this bitch up, man. Like, we're believing,
your machine, man.
In front of your eyes, man.
Hashtag me too, man. You can't say this in hashtag me too.
Right. I'm sorry.
Me too.
Yeah, and what the irony is I said this just as my wonderful, beautiful wife came in the door. Yeah,
basically tonight we're sleeping on that couch tonight, man. So
yeah, I'm sleeping right here tonight. Yeah.
Okay, man. So that's his machine's number 3, man. So my number 3 is maybe one that many of you guys don't know, but this is about learning. It's about learning. It's about learning about shows that you may not also know. This has arguably one of the best concepts for a TV This has the second best concept for a TV show ever made. Second best concept ever, and this is Quantum Leap.
I knew, dude. I was waiting for you to do this.
Quantum flipping leap.
Yeah.
The concept of this show, I think, is incredible. So this was by Donald Belisario, starring Scott Bakula and Dean Stockton. Basically, the premise of the show is you have this dude, this is way in the future, who I think he builds his time machine and everything, but something goes wrong and he goes back into time. But he goes back into the time within his own lifeline and embodies the personas and the bodies of particular people within a particular lifetime. So everybody sees this particular dude and particular guy that he is. And in order for him to leap out of this body into another timeline, is he has to correct something that happened that was bad in his past into a good thing. So maybe like this person got killed, someone got killed that this person knew, or this person went to jail, and he must find out what went wrong and correct it. And once he corrects it with the help of his partner, Dean Stockton, he then leaps out of that body into another lifeline. So what he's trying to do is try to hopefully get back home, because as they leap and leap and leap, he wants to leap all the way back home to where he truly is. And basically when you knew that, see, so between us, this is a cool concept and everything, but once it now reached gold status is when he jumps into the very racial times where he's a black dude and where he now has to deal with the racism during these times. And the funny thing is that us, the audience, look at Scott Bakula, this white dude, but everyone else sees him as this black dude and so forth. So those episodes, which is obviously written by Donald Belisario's wife, who is black, I think either black or mixed race. Okay, black. I know Dennis is listening, black and everything. Those are probably one of the best episodes, just in how well they are written and just how real they feel. So yeah, it's and if
I remember that particular episode that you're mentioning, actually.
Yeah,
and I remember how clever it was and how.
So have you seen it?
I've seen, dude. I grew up with that show as well. You know, the one thing is like that. I thought that guy was sort of like the discount rate. Paul, what's his name? The guy from MacGyver. You know.
Oh yeah.
So like I thought he was good, but not as good as the MacGyver. For some reason, you know, when you conflate these two actors that have nothing to do with one another, but there's a similarity in your mind. So like you pick a side because you're naturally tribal. You know what I mean? So for me, Paul Anderson was pitted against that one guy that I don't remember his name. And I was like, oh man, you know, Paul Anderson's my dude. And I'd rather watch MacGyver than that show. But that show was a great show. Fantastic premise. Always good. You know, you came off of an episode feeling fulfilled, like you had a nice little meal, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember that particular show that you just mentioned with the racial component vaguely, and I remember it being one of the most.
Oh, there were several. There were
all right.
There were several of those.
Okay, but I remember one, or in particular, that I thought was like, wow, it's interesting that they're going there, and it's interesting how they're doing it. You know what I mean? In a way that's not pedantic or anything. So props to that show. I wouldn't classify it in my top 20, but probably top. Did I say 10 or 20? Not in my top 10, but probably my top 20, 30.
Okay, you're crazy, but okay. So what's your? So are we now? So this is number 2 now. So what's
number two, and I know this is going to trigger you very hard, man.
Oh my God! Oh, okay, wait, easy. Build up to.
Trying to do it.
Easy. Build up to it, because I'm getting ready to scream. All right. So
and what's going to trigger you? An extra amount is when I finish the sentence. But first of all, my choice is Game of Thrones. And Game of Thrones, even though it's already triggered, But you're gonna be extra triggered when I finish my sentence, man. Like I told you, I didn't get past season 3. All right, I didn't get past season 3, but what I saw of the first 3 seasons was so good, and I want to get past season 3. That I have to put it up there, man. I have to put it.
Wait. Okay, so why haven't you gotten past season 3?
Just a matter of time, and although I was I'm very happy to do so, but also the fact that like while I was watching it and getting to season 3, people were watching the very end of the show, right?
Mm.
And the last episode in particular, apparently was such a universally reviled mess that I questioned whether or not I want to really finish the series. One of the things that I'm more prone to is to finish up until watch it up until the point where George R. R. Martin had a hand in it, and the show is actually a direct sort of representation of the novels. You know what I mean? Because you can, from what I understand, you can clearly tell there's a breakoff point from when the novels stopped, and the writers and the showrunners just sort of start, deviating and doing their own thing, and the level of quality just dips tremendously. So, maybe I'll watch the first 5 seasons, but I'll tell you something. The first 3 seasons, there's enough content there and enough material there for me to think this is up there with the greatest shows of all time. Just in terms of scope, in terms of pacing, in terms of some of the characters, and especially in terms of subverting the natural laws of drama. That's the biggest thing of all of it, man. It subverts everything that you expect from a standard story. It goes back to like the classical myth making, where these days we become very infantilized by what a hero is supposed to act like. We have these very hard etched representations of heroic acts, but back in the classical era, heroes were dudes that achieved great things. They were deemed heroic from their deeds, not from their character. You understand?
Oh, no, yeah.
So, you take a look at the Odyssey, for instance. The Odyssey is about Odysseus going around, Greece or the Hellenic world after the war, the Trojan War, right? And he's sort of lost at sea, and he's trying to get back to Ithaca, where his betrothed Penelope is waiting for him, right? And throughout this is a time span of 15 years, and throughout those 15 years, Penelope is faithful to him, and she's always waiting for Odysseus to come back, the great Odysseus, come back to sun-kissed Ithaca. And there's plenty of suitors. There's suitors because this lady is amazingly beautiful. She's the most beautiful girl on the island, right? And after a while, after 2, 3, 4, 5 years, they grow up. They muster the courage to start proposing to her, and she keeps denying. And then finally, Odysseus comes back. And do you think that he has patience for the people that tried to conquer her and were her suitors? You would think, like in today's Avengers world and Captain America world, that he would let it go. But no, he kills every single last one of them. And he just maims them completely. And it's Odysseus. It's the great hero of Grecian myth. And why is it like that? I remember, because I was reading the story when I was a 5th grader or whatever. And at the same time, I was reading Marvel comic books, and the morality of Marvel comic book heroes was completely antagonist to what I was reading in this Homeric tale. And I would ask, like, why is Odysseus doing that? The teachers were dumb and they didn't expound, but yeah, it's because things were done a little differently. And it's the same thing with Game of Thrones. It comes back to a skewed morality, where a different morality than the one that the West has been raised by, which is very infantile, where the heroes are judged by their deeds, and not the morality of their deeds, but the greatness of their deeds. You know what I mean? And it's not cut and dry that the guy that's the most morally sound is the guy that's going to survive. You know what I mean? The moment Sean Bean got his head chopped off in the last episode of the first season, or in the penultimate episode, I knew this is a total game changer, man. Because it's Sean Bean, number one. This guy ticks all the check boxes of what a hero is supposed to be, and he's getting his head sawed off in front of his own daughter. Do you know that's like?
Oh, no, it's not. Okay, Machine. Do you want? Tell me when you want me to land this plane. Please tell me. Which we see. Tell me when the Machine International Airport can clear me to land.
Okay, landed.
Okay, Machine. You're a supremely intelligent dude. You're one of the most smartest, astute human beings on our planet. That's why you won 3, 4, 5. Easy, let me land. Machine said I'll land. Okay. That's why you're on your. Is this your 5th Nobel Peace Prize that you won? Because you won it 4 times before. So you being the current 2020 Nobel Prize winner, you're one of the smartest human beings that Earth has. You would know that, you being this intelligentsia son of Einstein, would know that a great story must have a great ending, or at least a decent ending. And you would know that
true,
a crap ending can negate everything that came before. That even if you had a superb beginning, a superb middle, but the ending is not only bad, it makes everything you read before pretty much null and void. That can literally make the entire book you've read garbage. Machine, I swear to you, the ending of Game of Thrones is the worst ending to anything I've ever seen in my life. To any film or TV show, it is literally the worst ending to anything I've seen in my life.
I don't want to watch it, man.
And Machine, don't. Just so see, you're in a great position, because you know why your position makes sense? Everything that was good about Game of Thrones was these two knuckleheads copying very well, because they did it that very well, but these two knuckleheads copying what George R. Martin did. The moment that George R. Martin left and they were left by their own devices fully, this thing began to go down the tubes. But my thing about Game of Thrones is, even if we take the first 3 or 4 seasons that had some of the most amazing things seen, now, if we were doing a list of top 10 best directed TV shows, Game of Thrones would probably be number 1 in terms of production value. The writing is very good. In the first 3, 4, I'll say the writing very good. For me, Machine, man, I'm sorry, man, the acting is a bit sketchy for some. Specifically, the lead characters. The leads, see, the guys around them are amazing. Whether you want to look at Peter Dinklage, you want to look at Charles Dance, you want to look at these dudes that's
Charles Dance is insane. Charles Dance is like almost Anthony Hopkins level.
No, Charles Dance is amazing. Shout out to what's it called, Golden Child, man. He was amazing, Golden Child. But the main guys, like, what's it called?
Was he him in Golden Child, man?
Yes, Noopsy. He was
with the different eyes. Now that you mention it,
and he was in Last Action Hero as well.
That's right. Yeah.
He was in last. No, Charles Dance has been around, man. No, but yeah, the lead actors, I think, are not very good, and I think if the lead actors are carrying your show, it's
tell me one actor in particular that you think. I'll tell you one that really pissed me off. Keith Harington, yeah, he's just
no. Basically, Kit Harington and Emilia Clarke, they're not very good.
I don't think Emilia Clarke is good at all. I agree with you.
No, they're not
completely. Very good. Another one that really annoyed me throughout is Keith Harington's brother, the one that's supposed to be the king, the heir to, the king of the north, the heir to Winterfell, and that gets offed in the third season.
Oh no! I thought he was pretty good.
Yeah, he's a dude. For me, he was super annoying because he.
No. I thought he was pretty good. Man.
Yeah,
I thought that really good. No. For me, Emilia Clarke is garbage. She's garbage. No, but see, you know what? Emilia.
You know what makes her garbage to me? Because let's expound on that. Because just to call somebody garbage and move on with it is doing a disservice to the acting process, I guess. The reason why I think she's garbage, and maybe you'll agree, is because she's supposed to play a regal sort of figure that's insanely charismatic and has like a majestic sort of presence to her. She has none of that. She's like a teenager in that role. You know what I mean? She doesn't exude that sort of regal quality. I didn't think.
Oh no! I mean, no, but it's not only that. I think you see her acting is beyond just with the whole regal thing. I think is because my friend has read the books, and she's supposed to be a very young, inexperienced queen who's like
in the beginning, but she has an arc.
But the thing, Machine, though, is that even if you give me that, for instance, this girl who was in, I forgot what her name is. She was in more than Dan Aronofsky film, and she was supposed to play Mary Jane in the Spider-Man films.
The hot one. That was in a porn. There was in a porn that got leaked.
Was she in a porn that got leaked?
Yeah, was Jennifer Lawrence.
No. See, not her. Oh my gosh! I need to be because I hate it whenever this happens because this just
Mother, man, and Mother is just Jennifer Lawrence, no?
But at the very end, you see someone else at the very. Don't worry, I'll get it. No, it's not her. Wait, no. Oh my gosh, what is it? No, Stephen, Amanda, Lawrence.
She's in Game of Thrones or no?
No, she's not in Game of Thrones. But see, I would have casted her instead of the chick that they chose. But whatever the case may be, you can definitely go better.
But what did you think of?
You know what? If let's say they put in Emma Stone. If they put Emma Stone instead, who I think she's a pretty decent actress, she would do a far better job than Emilia Clarke. Emilia Clarke is trash. She's just a trash. She's not very. Okay, she's not. She's very average.
Mm-hmm.
Very average. She's like
she's like
drama school. She's like a drama school acting.
But I hate to be that guy. But even looks wise, she's not that. She's average.
Come on, don't be that guy, man. Don't be that guy.
I have to go there.
Also, no. Jennifer Lawrence is for me one of the most annoying people.
She's annoying as a person, but she's very attractive. I'm sorry, man.
Bro, what's his name? Esther Zach's UI tier 1 for you. Shailene Woodley.
Shailene, let me Google her.
Shailene Woodley. See, that's somebody who I think that because she's got quite a childlike face. If she was in that role, she'd have done much better. Should have done much better. So,
is this person in Game of Thrones? Because I can't recognize her from Game of Thrones.
No. She isn't. I said I would have casted her instead of Emilia Clarke, but she was in Mother. She was at the very end of. She was in the Mother film. Okay. Bro, I don't know what you're on about, but Jennifer Lawrence is the most annoying creature on earth.
We should do a video just based on like how these different movies should be cast properly.
Yeah. Oh, bro, I've got names, bro. I've got names. Yeah. Okay, so let me hit you with my number 2, man. So my number 2 is this has.
Machine, find a busted nut. Machine is looking for a nut. I don't know where this meme is coming from, but I think it's funny.
So, what was the other guy say, man? Look, guys, let's keep this PC, man.
Yeah, PC.
So this for me has the greatest concept for any TV show ever. And I don't care what anyone says. The concept of this TV show is absolutely stunning. And also, I was actually right about Machines number one, but we'll obviously get there. 24. The concept of this show is genius. Absolutely flipping genius. And this is a show that I felt that maybe wasn't strong enough going through, but Machine, I'll tell you this right now. If 24 finished with 3 seasons, I don't give a damn about Game of Thrones. I don't give a damn about anything. I don't give a damn about Breaking Bad. This would be the greatest TV show of all time. The first 3 seasons of 24 is more addictive than crack cocaine. 100%. It is more addictive than hardcore blue meth, crack cocaine, and sconteriga. Because literally, you watch one episode, you've got to watch the next, and the next, and the next, and the next.
It would be 72.
No, 72. Basically, just call it 72. 72. If this was 72, it would be the greatest TV show of all time. The concept of like every episode is an hour, and you're going through a day in this counter-terrorist's life is crazy. It is, and for me, I've always said, Kiefer, see, you know how you always have famous actors and their famous sons, and their sons are never as good as their famous dads, like Martin Sheen and
I think
and Charlie Sheen. We have Tom Hanks and Colin Hanks.
Sure.
Kiefer Sutherland is the only son of an amazing actor dad who I think is close to his dad's level.
Yeah.
Like he is, because he
surpassed him because of Lost Boys, I feel.
And you know the funny thing though is that because of Lost Boys, I was scared of him. Because I felt, because he was frightening, because basically, again, guys showing our age here, you know, on the VHS, on the back had Kiefer Sutherland in full vampire mode, and that always really scared me. I remember that just etched my because when you saw him with the VHS, it had his face.
That's one of the scariest movies of all time because it starts as a very approachable, sort of like family-oriented film. And then all of a sudden, when it busts in the vampire element, it goes all out. You know what I mean? It doesn't pussyfoot around it. It goes like you actually see people getting mauled and shit, and you know, sorry about the cussing, but you know, you get a proper gore. You know, and for a kid to watch that, it's a big impact.
On a Lost Boys was one of those things, man. It's and also you've got my age wrong, by the way. I'm not 35, so no, look, I'm never revealing my age, and you'll never know what my age is. But yeah,
I've had multiple people say Machine is old. Yeah, they're right about that. They're probably right about that.
Look, man, that's a compliment because, like, you previously you could pass for a 20-something-year-old or everything, you know, and also the way you conduct yourself in the hangouts, you could pass for an 18 or a 19-year-old. So that's a compliment. You're still young. You're still young, man, bro.
I have that nervous energy, you know.
My thing is like, you know, 24 was just an incredible show. Like the way the kind of the emotional roller coaster that you go on this show is amazing. And the crazy thing is that there's one season where you get to episode 12 and you see the sunrise, and you just have it, and you're like, oh, now this show is really just possible because it's unlike any show. It fully engrosses you into what it is like to be like Jack Bauer in this.
But you mentioned that, all right? You see the sunrise. If this show was lived up to its proposition, that would be 3 episodes.
How do you mean?
Because you're watching the sunrise in real time. Right?
No. But it's okay. Okay. The sun didn't really rise. Basically, he's running, and for most of the episode, it's all indoors. So as he comes out onto the roof, you see the beginning of the sun rising. So you don't really actually see the sunrise. You just see like the very beginning of the sunrise. So you're like, oh wow, so this must be 6 a.m. because it started at like maybe 12 a.m. or something. So when it gets to the rooftop and you see daylight when you see it out for the first time, you see just the beginning of the sun, which lets you know okay, it's 7 a.m. So obviously before you see this episode is between 6 a.m. and 7 a.m. This episode between 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. So it just makes you feel unlike any other TV show because you see, it's one thing having an amazing concept. The other thing is about the execution. Great concept, great idea, but how the execute is that you really feel like, oh wow, this is like you're going through a real day. You know, they're going through a real day, like this is the second hour. And even when you now get to the last 4 hours, you're like, damn. And season 3, when you get to the end of season 3, you're like, what a day. It's like, what a crazy flipping day. And it's just, and again, like Kiefer Sutherland's performance as Jack Bauer is just, because again, this just showed you why he's such an amazing actor. You know, and the beauty about it is that because of Lost Boys and A Time to Kill, he never really got given the kind of leading man role because he's got like a villain's face, and also Stand By Me as well. He was always the villain or the antagonist. So what made him such a great protagonist is that he wasn't the kind of Chris Pine kind of regular leading man. It was like, wait a minute, oh, this is a different kind of a hero because he doesn't have the leading man look, and he looks like a villain. Like Kerry Stone looks like a scary dude. But that is just what makes Jack Bauer so interesting, is that the criminals and terrorists are more scared of him because he looks like a flipping criminal himself. So yeah, man, 24 is my thing, man.
I'm not going to go against too hard on this one because I never delved too deep into the show. But I will say this: I will agree with you that the execution is absolutely genius. It's something that if a writer came to pitch to me, and I was a producer, I would sign off sight unseen. You know what I mean? The premise. It's called 24, and it's like 24 hours in the life of this guy. I would like, all right, yeah, that's amazing. Love it. Ultimate show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I would push back a little bit in terms of the execution, because if you're going to do that, then, you know, you would have to sort of, you know, for me, like 24 hours is if like Die Hard. It's like it's a night in the life of like this dude, and that to me is a better summation of what 24, even though it's far more compressed, is a better representation of like a really intense night. You know what I mean? It in order for the 24 hours to be realistic, you'd have to have like 6 minutes of him messing around with his teeth or whatever. You know what I mean? Getting a toothpick and like picking some shit out of his teeth. You know, the mundane shit that's part of real life. You know what I mean? To make it truly believable.
Yeah, no, but come on. At the end of the day, it's a TV show, bro. You have to.
I know it's a TV show, but
but look, I mean, from Dennis, he said, "Problem 24 is the guy's running, fighting terrorists, but he never sleeps, never eats, never drinks."
Yeah, I agree with this guy.
No, but he's Jack Bauer. He doesn't eat, sleep, or drink. It's Jack Bauer, and he's Scarlett
Johansson is overrated. Somebody said that. I totally agree with that.
Oh, no. Basically, I'm ignoring that whole thing because I don't do the whole "let's now rate women out of 10" kind of thing and everything. But like,
I don't mean in terms of looks. I just mean in terms of acting. I think she's tremendous.
Oh, no. In terms of acting, not for me. I said, look, I think like Naomi Harris. For me, I think Naomi Harris and Emma Watson are are the ones that to really look out for, both of them, Naomi Harris. And look, that's another one we should do. Top 10 actresses. Sure. Because people have been asking for top 10 actors, which we need to do. Top 10 actors of all time.
And the thing about that sort of list is that when it comes to both actresses and actors, it's an exceedingly reduced sort of talent pool, because I don't really think you have a lot to work with these days.
So is this in terms of actresses?
Actresses and actors. I think that there's not a lot of like dudes that you can point out and say, yeah, this guy's just got it. You know what I mean? As you would be able to in, say, the 80s or the 90s or the 70s. You know?
Oh, no. I was saying the whole time.
All right, so there's De Niro, there's, Harvey Keitel, there's Pacino.
John Voight,
John Voight, there's not on the same level as those dudes, but yeah, there's plenty, Nicholson.
Yeah.
Nicholson, all timers. You don't really have people that you foresee into the future. Them
of the current crop.
Yeah, them being spoken of in the same breath.
Oh, no.
You know what I mean? Dude, it's
we'll rock it.
What you need to know is that Thor is one of the best actors. That one of the most talented stars.
Wait, who's that? Who?
I mean, Thor, like Chris Hemsworth, is one of the biggest stars that we have these days.
The guy's garbage, man.
Yeah, I know, but he's like one of the top stars. That's what I'm saying.
Which is a problem.
And by the way, his brother is way worse. Liam, if you think Chris Hemsworth is bad, I think he actually has some saving graces. Liam Hemsworth, who's his brother, who they kept trying to push, is like,
yeah, with Expendables and stuff.
Oh man, he's
Okay.
I hope you do this, but yeah.
Can I say your number one, or do you want to say it? Because I already know what your number one is.
You say it.
Machine's greatest TV show of all time is The Shield.
Exactly, man. Yeah. You know me too well. You know me too well. Well, I think it's one of those shows that it's really, really, really rare that you have a show that's nearly perfect. Nearly perfect. And I say nearly, and this is as nearly as it gets, because me and my friend were the biggest fans of The Shield, and we think it shits all over The Wire, right? Which is the one that's typically put usually in front of The Shield as the seminal show of its era, the seminal cop drama, and the one that really broke the mold and everything. I think that The Shield is a far superior show. But anyway, we were like looking at all the seasons. We were like first, second, third. There's only one episode that's off kilter. One episode that's terribly written. One episode that stands out as like, what the hell were they thinking? And funnily enough, it's written by a completely different team of like women that had nothing to do with the show. And the characters it's just a really jarring episode. I'll look it up and I'll name it if you want and put it in the comments list. But we both thought that like, why does this thing exist in this otherwise perfectly sealed package that was The Shield? But apart from that, I'm talking about its flaws, and everything has its flaws because nothing is perfect. This is as close as it gets to perfect. And why? And this is partly gonna get to one of the videos that we're gonna do in the future, which is greatest performances in TV shows, or greatest performances, period. It has amazing performances, that's for sure. I think first and foremost, we have to mention Walton Goggins as
Shane.
As Shane, who's the most.
I'm going to have ourselves a hold down.
Yeah, he's sort of like he's the white trash element in the group, but he's also the most flawed and believable character of the ensemble. And this is an ensemble show that's carried by Vic Mackey, who's an amazing character.
Michael Chiklis.
Chiklis does a fantastic job as Mackey. He's also given a script that's amazing and a character that's amazing to work with. But he does a fantastic job. And it's really a Shakespearean sort of epic with cop flourishes. Cops acting as criminals, and criminals acting, and how the prey becomes the what do you call it? Prey and what else? The prey and the predator. They're like the predator and prey dynamic and the inversion of that, and how really cops, when you get down to it, and when you get down to the streets and down to the urban jungle, cops are really just criminals. Actually, they behave like criminals. And let's set the premise of the first. You were talking about the premises of shows and how 24 is so fantastic. Just think of this as a first episode and as a hook. You establish the strike team, which is this super hardcore team of detectives that are out on the street and really getting rough and tumble with people and are very highly respected. You're introduced to these characters. Some new guy comes into the strike team because he's heard about, he's actually like a snitch. He was put there by the Internal Affairs Department. And we know that as the audience, but apparently the rest of the strike team don't, but they do towards the end. And they all embrace him as their friend. And then at the end, Vic Mackey, the main character, shoots this guy, this fellow cop in the head. And that's the first episode. Dude, what a way to start a show, right? What a way to hook you. And they do this and they keep doing it. And just as you think that they're starting to lose steam, they take out the rug from under you and surprise you once again. And this is very rare to say of a show, but just imagine a show that's been doing stellarly for 5 seasons, and then it gets to the fifth season, and the 5th season is by far the best one because of the stuff that happens there. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Oh yeah.
And I don't want to spoil anything.
No. Say nothing. No. But what I'll also say as well is, you know how we say like Game of Thrones has one of the worst endings to anything ever. The Shield has one of the best endings.
Yeah, absolutely.
Might arguably be, because thinking about it now, it's probably the best ending to a TV show I can think of.
The best arc. When you look at everything as
the best arc and everything.
When you look at everything as a cohesive whole, and the arc of the characters and the trajectory that they took from the first time you were introduced to them to how they finished, it's almost as if everything was preordained by the writers. I doubt that it was, because there's never that much foresight. You know what I mean? But I'm sure that there was a lot of stuff that they found out as they progressed. But that's the genius of the show, is that everything just seems to fit together. And like, of course this would happen. Of course this guy's a prick. Of course that this guy was going to take the fall. Of course that this guy was going to end up in misery. You know what I mean? Just a tremendous show, and I highly recommend it to everybody. For me, the greatest show of all time. And I'm very, very curious to see what HH's pick for that.
Well, look, man, I said, look, I mean, no, the Shield, I can't lie about that. That's why it gets up there in my top 10, and it's definitely a big time show. And again, I fully recommend people to watch it, because again, I love shows that take risks and say F you to the traditional way of how you tell a storyline. And again, because for me, I say, like, Forrest Whitaker is one of the most underrated actors of all time, and what he does, and everybody has raved about just what the hell he did on this show. He
was fantastic in the show, and you took a lot of,
and also,
he had a very unique sort of approach to this character.
No. But Forrest Whitaker is a very unique actor, because he takes very unique acting choices. Because even for me, like when I was an actor, going on for everything, that's why I always watch acting closely, because I used to do acting and everything, and I always look at the acting choices that people make, and the acting choices that Forrest Whitaker always makes always very interesting. But just the acting on this, which is why I like this so much, is it's very real, and they were big on authenticity, and that's always big for me. And even remember the cop.
Yeah. I remember exactly what you're saying. The guy that was above Acevedo. Are you talking about Acevedo?
No. The policeman.
Okay, the black dude,
old head, and his storyline.
Oh, dude, tremendous, man.
It's like basically every character has such a crazy storyline.
Dude, but if you go back to the first episodes, where you don't even have an inkling of what you ended up knowing about that character, right? His performance, and maybe even the actor didn't. there was just something off about the actor, something very inward, like he had something hiding, that you didn't want to expose to the world.
Oh, no. I mean, everything just felt very real, and even just because remember the confrontation that the white female policeman had with that mother, and how that mother just sort of just went crazy at her in the precinct and everything, and just sort of like exposed. It's like there's so many crazy. Look, it's a crazy show. It's a crazy show, man. It's a crazy show. Okay, look, man. Let me hit you with my number one, man. For me, this has always been the number one, and even after I watched it, I was like, yes, it is. And you see, even if we're doing top 10 TV shows, this isn't a TV show. This feels like a documentary. This feels like a testimony. And my number one is The Wire. Is The Wire. For me, the thing about The Wire, why I think The Wire is a cut above is, see, The Wire was coined by this guy called David Simon, and I think it's Ed Burns, I believe. And let me just.
Are you talking about the showrunner?
Yeah. Oh no. It's
the guy whose brainchild The Wire belonged to.
Yeah. The brainchild. I mean, I know. Yeah. I think Ed Burns might be one of the guys. Basically, it's David Simon was a Baltimore journalist, and I believe it's Ed something. He was a policeman, either a policeman or a detective. So their approach to this is that we're not making a TV show. We are literally going to give you an extremely detailed account of life in Baltimore. And we're going to think about, okay, the new season, the next season. No, we have 5 seasons. And season 1 is going to focus on drugs and the relationship between the police and the criminals. Season 2 will focus on the unions. Season 3 will focus on the war on drugs and the psychology and the stupidity of the war on drugs and how the police fights this whole thing of the war on drugs. Season 4 will focus on the school system and how the youth are now being bred to become the new criminals. And season 5 will focus on the media. So from the very beginning to the very end, everything is fully 100% clearly defined in this show. And that is why when you're watching it, it feels like it feels like you're reading a book. It just feels like you're reading a book. That's why for me, The Wire just set itself apart to a whole new thing and everything, man. So, is this Mini Machine?
Yeah, this is, you know what it means when he shows up, right?
So yeah, so it's basically Mini Machine is pretty much like one of our biggest fans of this show, man.
Yeah.
Mini Machine always shows up whenever we're doing.
Yeah. When it's time to basically it's my wife sending in the
Mini Machine, what up?
The warning. These are mama. Hola.
Hola. Buenos dias. ¿Qué tal?
He's doing well. He's doing super well. But
no. I mean,
it's one of the most impressive. I'll tell you something, man. Every show has a Bible when you're trying to pitch it, and sort of like a sometimes detailed, sometimes not so detailed account of what you think the show is going to progress into, your vision for the show, usually beyond the first and second season. The Wire specifically, I read, just skimmed through it, but the pitch of The Wire was one of the most impressive things I'd ever seen in terms of how detailed the account was.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those cases where sometimes when you over-intellectualize things, the execution is never up to par with what your idea of it is. I think Kubrick in particular is one of those guys that's most at fault for that. Having a super specific vision about something.
But he gets too smart and everything.
It becomes over intellectualized, and the actual films and the product that he puts out there becomes frigid, even in the pacing. even in the feel of it. It becomes a cold sort of soulless thing. And
No.
Wire,
But I don't think
very
that's
little of The
the
Wire.
case. But I think with The Wire, I just think it's a case of where they don't beat you down with the detail of the stuff. Is like the bit of The Wire is like when you watch it again, you're like, oh my gosh, I missed, because you missed a lot of stuff the first time through. But when you watch it again, like, oh, I caught that, because there's so many hidden nuggets and everything within there, because everything is so detailed, but it doesn't do like a Chris Nolan way with you. Like Chris Nolan will be like, oh, look at how clever I am, man. This. That. The Wire doesn't do that. It's like, look, you can choose to.
No, Chris Nolan will actually explicitly tell you this is what you're supposed to think about this movie.
Oh yeah. In a very complete way. So from I'm sure it says Sopranos, and season 1, season 4 is peak TV. No, Sopranos is quality, but I just don't think Sopranos is up to the wait, look, see, Mini Machine has fans, man.
Yeah, I know, man.
Machine is a chosen one in the Avengers.
I'm glad.
Mini Machine is the next Avengers. Okay, look, man, I've got ahead of that. So, guys, look, man, that's it from us here, man. We did our thing, man. I hope we'll put our top 10 lists. I'll put it in the description box below and everything. So before we get out of here, in the live chat, what top 10 do you want us to do next? Tell us right now, what top 10 do you want us to do next? Because we have a few in the pipeline. Because I do want to do a top 10 actors of all time, and a top 10. I want to do a top 10 performances of all time. I want to definitely do a top 10 acting performances of all time, because I think that would be more interesting than top 10 actors.
They're both interesting. I mean, listen, we could do top 10s for the rest of. We could do top 10 pistachios, man.
What's called top 10 meals.
Top 10 meals, man. We could do that. We have plenty of content. It's just a matter of like what the people want us to do. I think
So yeah, we'll think about it. But I think a lot of guys are saying top 10 actors or top 10 performances. But we'll see more. But guys, peace out. Stay true. And we're gonna get out of here, guys. Peace out.